Right, okay. Good evening, everyone. This is the planning board meeting of, do we have a date?
May 11th.
May 11th. And so if we could please stand for Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. See, we have, this is a joint meeting with the IDA tonight, and we have John Gatsky on Zoom with us tonight. And I think Kevin Robinson will be in a little bit later. I think he's going to be late tonight.
And then, Mr. Chair, we also have Pat Mahar from the Redevelopment Authority also on Zoom,
Oh, okay, so we have another person.
just for the record.
So, since this is a joint meeting with the IDA, I'll just hand over the meeting to Sharon Clark.
Thank you. I'd like to call the Carver Redevelopment Authority meeting to order at this time. I'm the chairman, Sharon Clark. With me tonight is Vice Chair Savory Moore and Paul Costas, and on Zoom is Pat Mahar. The reason we're here tonight is that the Redevelopment Authority is coming up with a very big project in North Carver, and back in March, a zoning bylaw change, was proposed. And as we get ready to really start digging in with the developers, we want to be sure that we have, with absolute certainty, what the bylaw change is going to be and what it's going to be about. We know it's a height change, and we know that through discussion with the developer and discussions that we've had with other towns that are doing similar projects, that current business practices for these kinds of distribution centers is to go up instead of massive buildings out. So, in keeping with current business practices, we'd like to start formatting the bylaw that will need to go in front of town meeting in the fall. For that district, it's a height of 45 feet, I believe. And the proposal was to 65, which meets with the proposals that the preferred developer is dealing with. And it's also in keeping with business practices across the nation for these kinds of areas. They've developed technology that's easier to stack than spread, so that it's equal storage in a lesser footprint. The bylaw would be for this parcel only. It would not apply to the entire town. And the RDA would like to work with the planning board to move forward on formatting the bylaw and the timetable that we need for public hearings, when to have it proposed, when to have it written, when to have it proofed by legal, and be ready to present it. In the meantime, while all of that is happening, the RDA will be doing extreme due diligence with every other department in town outside of the planning board that needs to be involved in the formatting of this project, and that includes definitely fire and safety, water, just so many that we understand the breadth and scope of this, but it all starts with this zoning change. So it kind of all starts here. Savory, do you have anything?
Yeah, I just, Savory Moore, Redevelopment Authority, Vice Chair. I just want to say that we really have to make sure that when this is put in front of town meeting, hopefully, is there any word, Jim, yet on special town meeting in the fall?
I haven't heard anything yet.
Okay. Well, we're hoping certainly that there is a special town meeting in the fall, because this project is starting to take on a timetable of its own with the current developer and a potential builder. We need to make sure that the presentation to town meeting has all the i's dotted and the t's crossed, so we get this through. It's going to be very important in the presentation to tell about the benefits that the town of Carver is going to get from this. That's going to be the selling point, along with the buy-in from, as Sharon said, all the other departments. It's not going to be enough for the fire department to say, yeah, it's okay. We need the fire department to say, this is good for Carver. So that the rest of the citizens in town realize how important and how many people in upper levels of government here think that this is good for the town. So I think basically what we just want to make sure is that the presentation has as much information as possible. We, as the RDA, are meeting with the developer next week to go through a few of the things that we need to talk about. We would probably welcome right now any concerns or questions that you might want us to speak to the developer about regarding this, because now is the time. If we do have a town meeting in October or November, that means that everything's got to be wrapped up by September, and we're halfway through May, so we don't really have much time to delay here. So we've got to keep it moving at this point.
Mr. Chair, I believe Mr. Gasky may have a question. John, do you have a question?
Yeah. I think I missed the opening statement about what the project is that is looking for the bylaw.
The bylaw change is the height allowed in the green district right now, I believe it's 45 feet. And
Right.
the bylaw is to move it to 65.
Right, but you're saying there's a project that's already in development that wants this bylaw change. So
No, not here, not in Carver. Not in Carver. I've been talking with North Andover a lot, and they had a similar project that needed a bylaw change, and they went to 105 feet for it's an Amazon project, but it's by the same developer that we've been working with. So that's, it's only a comparison. It's not in Carver right now.
Okay, well, that takes away the real expediency of needing to get this changed in.
How so?
If there's no projects that are set up that are needing this bylaw change, then we can take our time and do it right.
When the bylaw was proposed in March, we felt it was, for the RDA, we felt it was rushed. And this is the time we're taking to do it right. The preferred developer does have somebody. They were here at a joint meeting called Hillwood. It's a Perot company out of Texas. They are ready to go to PNS if they have not yet. And we'll be working with them.
Again?
What's that? I can't hear you.
What type of company is it again?
It's a developing company, a land developer company, and it's owned by the Perot family. So they always throw that in.
Perot family, Perot, okay. Yes.
Ross.
Familiar.
But we do have, we'll be meeting a representative from Hillwood next week at our meeting. And, Jim Walsh, I would like him to disseminate, make sure everyone knows of our meetings, because we will have these people in constantly, maybe twice a month for the summer. They were here, Hillwood was here at a joint meeting, when was it? April?
Yeah, it was a few months back, yeah.
It was still dark out, I know that.
Yeah.
And we kind of loosely met them, but not officially. But Route 44 Development has told us that they're ready to go to purchase and sale for the entire property, and that Hillwood expected the sale if it went through, and we got everything through the RDA and the URP, the Urban Redevelopment property, done, then they would go to purchase by the 1st of next year. But there's a lot to be done, and it kind of starts with this bylaw.
I was just going to say, we have a couple of new members, well, we have a few new members of the board here. I don't know if I don't know if John knows the history of the development of North Carver. I mean, this is, been developing.
Far back do you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, I've been here for 12 years, and it was before me.
Yeah.
So this isn't something that is just being developed this summer, or, I mean, it's been in the development, especially, with the buying of the coal property, development of the well system, and then the Route 44 buying the property, and then cleaning up the hazardous waste and whatever
Yeah.
was in there, leveling off the property.
Yep.
So this has all been something that's been in the development now for, well, at least 10 or 12 years.
They bought the initial property around 2005, 2006, and then have been adding parcels. Most people might remember the discussion that came from eminent domain a couple of years ago, but they have since very generously purchased every piece of property, including the last one maybe about a month ago, which was the access.
So there was no eminent domain
Nope.
taking? I mean, I've looked on the computer, and I've, seen different stories
Nope.
that are on there about, the takings of the properties out
I can
there.
absolutely assure you that they purchased by quitclaim deed every one of the houses, valued at much more than what they were valued at, paid for. They gave them generous severance packages. They let them stay in the houses. I think the houses have been torn down by now, but a lot of them have moved on. And the last piece was a few acres that was actually their access that David Borofsky owned, and they purchased that for $800,000 recently. And it was just his storage yard.
And then the appraisal came in around 400,000.
Yeah, but they said, this is, the appraisal came in at 400, they paid 8. In order, they needed this piece, because this piece is actually part of the access, and it was the last piece to be purchased. But eminent domain went off the table more than a year ago.
Okay, thank you.
So they negotiated in good faith all the way around.
I think John has another question.
Yeah, just real quick for clarification, when you're referring to, I guess this project is referring to the coal property. Can we just verify exactly where that parcel?
Where the parcel is,
Yes.
It's on the west side of Montello Street.
it's behind the old Tiki Kai. Everybody's,
Okay. So up there near Tractor Supply and whatnot.
It's kind of behind there, so Tractor
It's-
Supply is on Route 58.
yeah, it's a
And
little
then there's a street
further.
that runs behind that plaza.
Yep. Yep.
It goes to the Plimpton line, goes
Yeah.
down Route 44,
Yeah.
west to the Middleborough line.
Yeah, I've driven that road. I'm familiar with the area. Yep.
Yeah, it's a big empty.
Where we were talking about.
It's a big empty flat.
Yeah.
They've spent quite a bit of money cleaning it up from contamination.
Yeah, that was a big
Yep,
the Superfund site.
yep,
Bunch.
yeah, that's the
There.
property.
It was a Superfund site, and also some parts of the land had stumps and logs. We had fires years
Dump
ago
stuff,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, and also had a septic plant there at one time.
There was a sewage treatment plant
Yeah.
that I believe is the one that went to foreclosure, and that's when Route 44 bought their first parcels.
So, and it's across the street from the Cole property.
Across 58.
Yeah, they're across 58 from the Cole property.
Right.
All right, so this property was, some people call it the Whitworth property because
Exactly.
I think a large portion of that used to belong to.
Used to be the Whitworth property.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, yeah, just so everybody knows, this has been into the development for a long period of time. Jim?
Mr. Dion had a question.
Yeah, so you hear about what, the height of the building that we changed? We're looking to go higher than the 60, right?
No, it's at 40 or 45.
40, I believe.
Is it 40?
40 right now.
I bring it, I don't always look at it. And we need to go, they want to go to 65. Or, it's actually that whoever goes in there, if it's not Hillwood, whoever goes in there, it's just that the standard now is higher rather than 1 million square feet this way, they can do this way. And it's an industrial site on the outskirts of town. It's a really good site for this kind of thing. But our current bylaw is for 40, and we would say no more than 60 with a special permit from the planning board.
65.
65, this is why I keep him.
Yep, he's very good.
Thank you.
And just for clarification, so in the green business park zone, where the redevelopment area is located,
Yeah.
so the maximum height currently is 40 feet.
Yep.
And so the proposal would be to increase that to 65.
And any project that comes in under that height increase, it'll be written into the bylaw that it has to pass approvals by the fire department, the Board of Health, the water department, DPW, planning board, RDA, conservation, of course, and they have to sign off on everything, which isn't always the case for special permits. You know, you get input from many boards, but this would be a project of such, magnitude that all the boards need to have input all the way around.
Do we have a copy of the proposed bylaw we can look at, or
I have the
are
one
you just
that,
looking for our input?
I have the one that started to go to public hearing, and then, which, that's part of it, as a footnote to the bylaw change. And I think the RDA simply wants to kind of restart, use what was done, and make sure that we have input on it this time. Because we have to be able to stand up in front of town meeting and say, you know, we were in on this from the beginning, and this is our work because we end up responsible in some manner for how this is developed. So, you know, there's a couple of tweaks to this I'd like to see, but given that all the input didn't come from all the boards that it should have, perhaps, we felt it better when we asked Mr. McLaughlin of Route 44 to basically pull the article and wait till town meeting, because if this fails, then we're back at square one. And I don't really know how the development would end up looking with 3 massive million square foot, total square foot buildings versus one that went up a few stories. And that's what we want to be able to go to town meeting with every department's head held high, from the RDA, planning board, fire, police, conservation, all the way down, and say, this is good for Carver. And anything else? Yes.
So,
Wait.
Mr.
John, did you have something else to say?
yeah, quick question is, how would something like this affect the fire department?
We've been in not negotiations, we've been in discussions with Chief Weston from the very beginning, since roughly the first of the year. He's been in discussions with Route 44 because it kind of begins and ends with, we don't have a truck that'll go that high. And we don't have some of the training, we don't have some of the equipment, and it's our position that Carver will not pay for any of this either. So he's been in touch with, Chief Weston's been in touch with the fire chief over in North Andover, who just put in, or is working on the Hillwood proposal there. And they didn't have a lot of that stuff either, and how that worked out. And, you know, all of that will be covered. We have to have, like I said, we have to have Chief Weston be able to say at town meeting, I can work with this. Yes?
Just some perspective on this is, what is the tallest building in Carver? And, you know, compared to this?
One of the churches, maybe?
It's next
Oh.
door, isn't it? The
Are
library?
we sitting in it? The cupola for the library?
I think the library.
The tallest, what did he say, Savory? The tallest ladder we have is 38
32
feet.
feet.
Yeah, okay.
What the chief said,
And
yes.
I think he said the tallest building we have to get to the roof is maybe 40.
Right, but I mean, steeples of the churches are
Right,
at least 40.
Right.
Not taller.
right. And he actually said we would get a ladder truck or an aerial truck, that would help the fire department even with house fires here in Carver, because they don't have one. And he referenced the fact that chimney fires, they can't get up to the roof or safely they can't go to the roof to put them out because the roof's on fire and they can't get above it. So he said this would certainly come in handy there.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a lot of give and take in this with Hillwood and the developers. We're not there yet. We're only starting to get started. But again, it begins kind of and ends with the bylaw. So we need to work cooperatively and collaboratively to get this bylaw to a position of being the best that it can be and really the best for Carver.
What if they want to come back and put a second or third building, or they decide to expand their operations and put in several more buildings? I mean, where is that?
There's a limit under the urban renewal plan, under the MOU, of what the maximum number of square feet can be, and that includes going up.
Okay,
So however they configure that, it still comes back to you. And it still has to meet all the same criterion over and over. If they come in with a second building further on down the way, one of the things the chief says is, what if there's a second building? We can deal with the first one. What if there's a second, and the second one will be taken care of by whatever we get for the first, but there may be something else to consider. But then that's where the protection of the bylaw comes in. The
Right.
special permitting procedure by the planning board.
because what I see happening is 2, 3, and then, you know, skyscrapers for, in Carver parlance, going up on the property. And also I have concerns about, once it gets above 40 feet, about screening, or how it's gonna affect the rural character of the town. Are they gonna be able to provide screening?
Well, again,
This is gonna be a highly visible property coming into the town.
you're coming down Route 44 East. You're looking over what is just a big sand pit.
Or cranberry
Which
bogs,
is-
depends on how you look
I
at
don't
it.
think they're not taking those out. So that, it goes slopes down. I mean, we could do a height test to see where it is. Certainly, we used to do those on zoning to see how tall the tower was. And as far as the rural character, again, it's an industrial space that's been contaminated by 3 landfills. It's on the outskirts of town.
Yeah, but there's, I'd say half the town population passes through that intersection one way or the other on a daily basis. That's it's going to be,
It's gonna be a
Can-
change, there's no question.
yeah, but it's gonna be a massive presence on the Carver landscape, and these are things that need to be taken into account.
I think
Our
that-
bylaws, I mean, our master plan calls for maintaining the rural character of town and say an ultra-modern 65-foot building with probably radio towers or some such on top of it can be quite a presence in a town as rural as this.
And that would all come out in a public hearing, I suppose.
It also concerns me that this is specific to a particular development.
It's not. It's particular to it's for a particular area of town. It's
It's
the
for-
Green Business Park. The zoning is for that
Okay,
particular.
so we'll take that into example. Does the Tiki Kai fall into the green business zone?
No,
No,
So what properties actually do fall into the green business zone?
I believe all the properties that this developer owns,
So,
but it's restricted to that. The bylaw has to specify that this 65 height change is restricted to the Green Business Park, the area currently zoned in Carver as Green Business Park only, and that every single structure that gets built, regardless of its height, has to go through the same procedures. They don't get a blanket coverage. I've built one, I can now do the other two, if that's even in their plans. Every building has to be looked at its own merit, and that's what's got to be in the bylaw, so that they can't run rampant. And we need to protect against two things. The number one thing is what you said about them coming back and throwing up 2 or 3 other buildings without any permission, so to speak. And the other thing is making sure that the height adjustment in zoning is restricted to that area alone, so they can't do it in South Carver in the business district down there. They can't do it up by across the street from Cisco, Spring Street. No, this bylaw has to be specific to that area, and that for each individual structure that the developer or developers plan to build in the future, including the first one.
well, yeah, but then there it is again, the first one. That's part of the issue.
There are no plans for anything other than the first one right
There are
now.
currently no plans, but we're not growing any more land, and that's the biggest issue. So at some point, it becomes a premium to maximize the utilization of each individual property. I would feel better, actually, I have a general idea of where the green business zone is, but I would need to have a more specific,
Well, it's on a map.
all the plans are,
I don't,
all the plans are on our website under the Carver Redevelopment Authority.
right, but you're coming to us now, but the only information that we had prior to this meeting is that you were interested in discussing the zoning bylaw, so,
Well, you were almost to public hearing on this back in March.
it was never presented
It
to
was
the planning
pulled.
board.
Right, it was pulled.
It was pulled.
From the
but you
package.
got-
So
You
it
got
was
as
never
far as
so this is
scheduling.
the first time that we have had any opportunity as a board in order to discuss or move forward with this, and we're severely lacking on the tools and necessary information to make educated or choices on the development of the future planning on town. You're just asking us to go along with moving the ability from 40 to 65 feet, which is more than a 50% increase, and is going to be by far the tallest singular building at the time, for the time in this town. And it's a big change, and I think we need to look at all the aspects of this. I mean, I saw what was presented at the warrant when it was in draft form, but this is the first actual proposal that's been presented to us, and I don't see that anybody else here is holding a copy of it, and this is still a draft.
Well,
I got this draft from the planning board.
That, yeah, the planning board developed that. What you're reading now came from the
The
planning.
planning board did not. Maybe our planning director did?
Yes, I did.
Yes,
So-
he's a very smart man, and we leave a lot in his hands. But again, this is the first time that we have
Well-
had any opportunity to address this, and honestly, if you want us to give you our educated and apparently valued position on this, we would need more time to look into this. Maybe it's something that should go in front of the zoning bylaw committee, but we don't have the tools to work with tonight.
Mr. Shea, no one is saying to do it tonight.
That's-
Okay.
Well,
Right.
this is just a proposal that will be going forward with this over the summer. And then, when we get to town meeting, we would like to see that the planning board is satisfied with the bylaw that's going in front of it, because you will probably have to sponsor the public hearings by then, and everybody else concerned. So this is just an informational.
Okay.
This
So-
is just
okay.
cooperation and collaboration.
So you're here tonight, so you're going to work with Jim on drafting this bylaw. Then it's going to
Yes.
come to the planning board, and then we're going to take a look at it.
So we needed to know the timelines.
Okay, all right. And you can work that out with Jim. And we'll get material as soon as it develops between you and, so that Jim,
And
for the
we
IDA,
need
and
to go to
then, once you
legal.
get that done, then, you're working with Jim anyway, and then that'll come to the planning board, then we can review it. Maybe at some time, none of these planning board members have gone on a site walk in that area. I mean, it might be a good thing for people just to go to the site, just to see what it looks like.
We can arrange that.
We went one time with Will Sinclair, the planning board, some of the planning board members from our last board. And so we went off to the road that's in back of the Tiki
Yeah,
Kai and the
Park Ave.
hardware store. And then we went down this driveway that was like about a half a mile long or longer. And we looked over the site, which was huge, and there weren't any homes visible. There were some abandoned buildings at that time, which have probably been taken down, but none of this could be seen from the main road, from 58, or from the side road, what's that one?
Montello.
Montello Street, yeah. None of that could be seen from, it was such a long driveway, it just went on forever before we came to the site. So I don't know what's changed out there, but, maybe it would be a good idea at some point for us to
We'll
take
set up a
site.
sidewalk maybe next month.
That'd be fine.
Because some of our members haven't seen it, some of our newer members haven't seen it. If you have members that have not been out there, it's imperative that they go see it too. And we'll invite the other town boards, and we'll have George McLaughlin. Mr. Shea, we don't have a plan yet. We don't know for sure what's going there. We have the developer who has a buyer, who has prospective plans, but we have not seen them yet. But we do know that across the country, when a distribution center goes in, it needs higher rather than wider, which I think is probably more attractive.
Well, it's more attractive in the conservational sense, which is kind of what I think this town is very interested in, is saving more of the potential land for water filtration for the aquifer underneath it, and maintaining some of the rural characteristics. So yes, I will agree with that, but
Yeah.
it's certainly a big change going up to 65 feet.
It's definitely a big change, and it's only for this parcel, so there can't be a hotel down at Edaville at 65 feet, because it won't go there. But it's also, we've worked the numbers on what this could mean to the town. And we don't have anything kind of finalized, but we know that using this industrial space to its highest and best use, which after 20 years seems to be some kind of a distribution center. Housing can't go there because of the water, and we wouldn't want 4,000 houses there. As far as the town, you want to ruin the rural character, put a Red Brook in there. But this seems to be good for the town if it's done right, if the bylaw is written properly, to protect everybody in town with input from every board and every one of them saying, this is good. That's the only way it's going to pass. But it's a bylaw just for that space, not for that developer. And that's how we want to make sure it comes through. It's for that space, for this use, future use, whether the deal's settled with Hillwood or not, there's somebody else who might come along. And again, we put every protection in place that we need. I mean, I've been in town 30 years. I've seen what can happen when bylaws go awry. And I don't want to see it here, because that's a very big space up there.
Is the green business one parcel?
Yes.
I think they've combined everything, all the individual parcels into one.
It's one area. There aren't more than one in town.
Yeah.
Well, I know it's one area. I didn't know if there was
There might be
multiple.
Oh,
multiple
no.
parcels within the zoning district, because there were multiple parcels before. So, and I don't know if Route 44 has come in and merged all their holdings into one parcel.
I think they've put them on one map, which would merge them. But that map's, one engineered map. But I mean, if you need to see the maps, go to the website, town website, Carver Redevelopment Authority. There's a whole string of our documents, their MIPA report, which was completed 2 years ago.
At least.
The MOU, the DHCD, all the input that is there's.
I'm familiar with most of those documents. I
Yeah.
have read them all.
Okay, well, the maps are in there. Anything? Yep.
Oh, do you see this as a distribution center, or will there be other businesses in it? What is the, do we have any idea what type of businesses would be going?
Right now, it's looking at a distribution center because that seems to be one of the businesses that was not affected by the pandemic. Everyone from Target to Wayfair to Walmart is becoming Amazon and delivering things in 2 days. They all have, so they are in need of space, and they are buying up huge tracts of land everywhere. It's not just Amazon, it's a lot of distribution centers. And it's usually dealing with those kind of dry goods, I guess you would say. It's not, it's not groceries or something like that.
So we're looking at a distribution center that's going to be going in here.
That is the general proposal that's talked about for that area.
Okay, 'cause I didn't think that we had a project.
What was that? I didn't hear
Oh, I
it.
didn't think we had a project. Well, it's the type of project that is being proposed. So the Redevelopment Authority is in partnership with Route 44 Development. And so they're the ones who are working on behalf of the Redevelopment Authority to seek a end user for the site, or an intermediate end user. And so part of the deal with Route 44 was they were going to go out, acquire all the parcels, get all the tax clearances for taking properties out of 61A, helping pay for relocation of the residences and businesses as part of the deals they make for the property.
They did the MIPA.
They did the Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act. They did a study that where they analyzed, it was up to, I believe, 1.8 million square feet between either one large building or several smaller buildings that added up to 1.8 million square feet. Looked at the traffic impacts. Working with Route 44 Development, we also...
That's some of the things that come to my mind when we're talking about a distribution center. That's going to be a massive, massive impact on the traffic situation. And that area around 44 is garbage for the traffic. You sit there, the way it's designed right now, you can sit there for 10, 15 minutes waiting on your opportunity to get onto the road. Additionally, there's quite a few houses around there. Have all these people signed off on selling their property? Or are we looking at?
All the people on
is the
Montello,
project
all the people
moving?
along there on Montello Street have sold their properties in the last 2 years, and I believe they're gone. I believe we were told that the houses had been torn down. I haven't been out there to see.
I haven't either.
But
Isn't there also a somewhat significant traffic relocation plan?
there was this, well,
Right,
the
so,
grant.
and the town has received a Mass Works grant for the Route 58 Montello Street intersection, where the redesigning where Montello Street comes into Route 58 so that they can handle the projected volume of traffic coming from the,
Well,
the,
but it's not just 58 that's going to be affected. It's 44. It's that
Yeah.
it's that whole area.
Right.
Not just Montello and 58.
Right,
I mean,
so-
you've got Heather's Path up there. That there's houses there. Have all that has all that been taken care of, and the effect of all that.
There are no houses on the property.
I think he's referring to Heather's Path, which is in Plimpton.
Oh, that's in Plimpton.
Doesn't the traffic redesign too cut off, so in other words, it's like Montello gets reconfigured, so
Yeah.
where Heather's Path is, the trucks can't go?
Right, they can't go down that way. They're kind of restricted to coming in one way and out the same way. But we haven't seen a traffic plan yet because we don't know what's going in there yet.
Right, so there's been, let's say, more macro scale
Yeah.
planning going on.
a good
And so
way.
part of that macro scale is, dealing with the improvements, the intersection improvements where Montello Street comes into Route 58. And then down the line, there'll be project-specific impacts that will have to be addressed.
Well, right now, getting off 44 at 5 o'clock,
Mm-hmm.
going west, you'll sit there for 20 minutes. Now you put a distribution center in there with a couple of hundred cars, at 5 o'clock, everyone's leaving. It's a matter, you'll never move down
I
there.
believe they estimated at 3,500 vehicles a day was the projected increase in
It's already,
traffic.
as it is now, with nothing there, 20 minutes on that ramp, just trying to get
It's gone
onto
off.
58. I get off at Spring Street just to avoid it.
Good plan.
I'm serious. And then you're gonna start
I mean, I
seeing
used-
everybody else, and it's gonna create a bigger problem.
I used to commute to Rhode Island every day
No,
and come home that same way. If I didn't get held up one way at the Rotary, I got held up coming home.
But
But that's
but
all,
I'm just talking like, you're a little town with one little off ramp just in that spot, with 3,500 cars all of a sudden at 5 o'clock and
you
leaving.
know, there's, we will
And
have,
that's just one of my scenarios.
Oh, I understand.
And I understand, but you'd have to do something.
I understand, and these are all questions that will come up at town
Right,
meeting.
right, and I'm just relaying what John is saying. I totally understand where he's going, because I've sat in it, I avoid
Right.
it.
And you gotta remember that this developer is coming in to make a, and it's not a hard plan right now, but we have a developer who's interested in coming to develop the site, and they wanna make it work too. Because if their vehicles are waiting,
I'm just
half an
throwing
hour,
my
40
concern
minutes,
out there.
then they wanna make sure that that roadway system is gonna work, and get their
So
people to and fro to their location, they want to make sure it works. So they're not going to, not do anything about that.
And one of the things that we will have through this process is peer review, independent peer review paid for by the developer on anything we want, whether it's traffic studies, environmental, water, fire, safety, police, Board of Health, anything. We will have, I've gotten all the information that Hillwood paid for North Andover, and I have a vast list of names. But this is all something that Carver will get to if we need it, and I think we'll need it. I mean,
Definitely.
I'm,
well,
this
you have to have it.
is not something I ever did as a living, was oversee this kind of a project. We're lucky to have Savory on the RDA because of conservation, so he can kind of wear two hats for us. But this is almost this is a general discussion that we can have further down the road. I know you guys are coming up to another meeting tonight. And what the RDA would like to do is plan on working with you cooperatively as we craft a bylaw that will satisfy the needs of the town, as well as allow for a future in that site, one which can be turned down by 9 different boards in town as it goes through. So we have to start somewhere,
Yeah.
and this is where we start.
Right, I think we have to, our focus tonight should be on the bylaw that changes the height restriction from 40 feet to 65 feet. Now, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, the permission is already there to build 1.8 million square feet. So that's not a question that can be changed. They have the option to build 1.8 million square feet of space, regardless of what it is.
Right, because I believe in the bylaw, it's a as of right type of development in the Green Business Park.
Right, so all of the traffic studies have to be done. To your point, they've got to be, they've got to be mitigated as best they can, but this is not a situation where the town can say, no, you can't do it. What we're doing is looking to raise the height restriction from 40 feet to 65 feet. And
They have double stack to build, and so there's less on the ground, and I understand.
not necessarily less on the ground. That may be a misnomer. What it does allow for is allows for more automation. It allows for racking systems that have robots that go up and pull pallets out so that the distribution can require fewer people, which in turn would mean fewer cars. So, that's another benefit of the height, is that it can be more of an automated system which would reduce the traffic impact in the area while also creating more of a revenue stream for the town of Carver because the building itself would be bigger.
Well, one of the things that you might consider in crafting the bylaw is that any additional height over the 40 foot is to be considered as having been expanded on ground level. So if you're gonna go up, 25 feet, which is 63% higher, then I think that should be subtracted from the available ground space to be used. In other words,
So
if we allow
it's like,
40 feet, but
instead
they
of
want
go like this way,
65.
so
Right.
shrink it 23% this way in order to go 23% higher.
Well, if they're going 63% higher, which is roughly what 25 feet added on to 40 is, that should be considered as ground expansion. Anything over the 40 feet should be considered as ground expansion. I think that's something that should be considered in this.
I don't know enough about construction to know whether that's feasible. I have no idea.
No, I
I mean,
mean, I'm
I build a
saying-
tower straight up, it falls over.
Right,
I build a
you
tower
have-
on a base, my grandchildren and the Legos,
You're-
it stays.
we're allowing 1.5 million square foot ground space.
Right.
If we're going to increase the height of the buildings from 40 to 65 feet, the amount of ground space that they'll be using for building and development should be limited accordingly.
Okay, I'll look into that. Can you?
Well, you're gonna have further discussions with the developer.
Well,
we're not gonna make any big decisions tonight about
we're not
anything.
dealing with the
Yeah.
developer. We're gonna deal with the planning board and legal and Jim,
Okay, yeah.
as far as how we want this bylaw, because this bylaw will be a reflection of Carver
Mm-hmm.
and our future. And, no disrespect to the Route 44 developer who's had his hand in this for so long and plugged millions of dollars into it already. This has to be ours. And when we go to town meeting, it's not going to be this was a bylaw for one developer. It's a bylaw for the town.
Oh.
And it has to work that way.
I'm gonna voice my opinion right here, based on what happened at town meeting. You've got a select board that is resistant to any type of a big box store coming into the area, and the town that pretty much rejected any type of changes and expansions going on with regards to business. I don't see how I don't see how anything that we come up with and propose is going to have a positive impact at town meeting that would get it through.
Well, and Mr. Gasky, that's our concern. And our concern is to be met by the fact that hopefully, if we do everything right, that the planning board, the RDA, the Board of Selectmen, the Conservation Commission, the Board of Health, Fire Safety, anyone else we need to talk to will be on board with this.
Well, I don't think it's a matter of being on board with it. I think it's a matter of of everyone doing the right thing and putting their personal stuff aside on this whole thing. And if this is something that's really truly good for Carver, it's not going to take much of a salesperson to make it happen. If we have to jump through hoops and we got to start making promises and all this other kind of stuff to try to convince people to let this happen, then there's something wrong.
I don't know if that's really the case.
Yeah.
There's an awful strong social media presence in this town that makes a lot of decisions based on misinformation. What we want to get out is the truth. We want to get out why it's good for Carver, to counteract what could be rumors. There were rumors.
But then you're going to have to come in with a plan. You're going to have to come in with some hard numbers.
Yes, we know that.
We'll come in with as many hard numbers as we can.
You got to provide stats. You got to provide actual numbers.
Yes.
That's the plan.
We know that. Unfortunately, right now, that the developer, there are two developers. There's Route 44 who has developed the property and is now in the position to sell the property as buildable. Hillwood is the potential developer who's going to come in and build the building. And they're right now in the process of making a purchase and sale agreement. And it may even be signed. We don't know 100% yet. We're meeting with both developers. The Redevelopment Authority is meeting with both developers next week. Basically, all we're looking to do here is to work with you to put out a palatable zoning bylaw change that will allow the height to go from 40 feet to 65 feet. The fact that they can build 1.8 million square feet of whatever they would like to build in that area is already established. That can't be backtracked. We can't say, no, you can't have a building that big, because that's already there. All we can say is how high it can be.
Yeah, we sure can, because we've just done that with we've done that with a housing development right down the road. We stopped them.
Jim, is that?
Well,
because of
That's
completely different.
We didn't like what was happening, what their proposals were. It got stopped. It's still been stopped.
well,
And then it was voted down again at town meeting.
changes to allow it to move forward in the form that they wanted were stopped. But they still can come back, come in under the current bylaw, and meet the requirements of the current bylaw and still produce a project. So it's not stopped, it has stalled, but they're
Taking a
planning to move
different route.
forward.
Yeah, they just have to, find a different road to go down. Yeah, it's not completely stopped.
And the same is true with the Green Business District. If they obey the current zoning bylaws, they have of right, as of right, to build 1.8 million square feet.
Right, and that's just back to my point.
Okay,
At
they
1.8
can build
million
1.8
square
million
feet,
square feet, but they've got no water.
that's a,
North Carver Water District can't support that.
They know that.
They know that.
They know that, and they have to come up with plans to address the water supply, address the water pressure, and a number of other factors. So that's all part of their,
It's all part of what we'll be
The
doing
process.
all summer long.
So, but back to my point, at 1.8 million square feet times 40 foot in height, that's a 72 million square foot area that they can build.
They have that, that's their maximum
72.
potential on the whole site.
So what I'm saying is if we raise it to 65 feet, that raises their maximum potential to 117 million from 72. And that's a big increase. That's why I would like in the drafting of this bylaw that additional height be considered as ground footage. And that was the point I was
All right, so you
attempting.
want the
It should be
cubic feet to stay at 72 million.
Right. Because then again, that's the difference between 72 million and 170 million, 117 million is a bit. I mean, I think we can all appreciate that if we had it in our bank accounts, we'd notice the difference. So I think that's really what the town looks at in regards to how much traffic is going to be generated, how much water is going to be generated, how much opportunity that land is willing to sustain. And I think that's why they set that limit.
Well, that's all been done through the MIPA process, and that's been approved by the state.
That's on our website, too.
Yeah, that's
The
on our
MIPA
website
report.
too. I mean,
Approved at what for square footage? 1.8 million, correct?
that's what allowed, but also all of the Massachusetts Environmental Protection
The MIPA, Environmental Protection Agency.
Agency.
Yep.
They've looked at all the preliminary plans and all the things that you're talking about, is the site suitable for 1.8 million square feet? The state says yes, it is.
Yes, it is, and I'm sure it is at 40 foot. But again, it's a big increase. It's almost a 60
Oh, I
million.
understand. I
Right.
understand that.
Yeah, that's my point. It's a 60
Right.
million square foot increase is enormous in regards to what the situation in regards to the property is going to be. And
Mr.
traffic.
Shea,
Yes.
can you email me, I'm on carverma.org, Sharon.Clark, what you're talking about and just lay it out? Because I have like 3 sets of notes so far. and
Well, I think it would be,
None of them meet.
I think if we look at it, he's basically talking about 25 feet being close to almost 2 stories. Actually.
yes, it was right.
Yes.
And I think
Similar,
that's where he's, I
not
think that's where
quite.
you're going with that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know
Well,
how it works between,
You're also
landing.
looking at an increase.
Just if you can just
you're looking at
email
a
me what
positive increase
you're
of
talking
what, 60% by adding the 25 feet to the cubic feet of space available.
Adam, you-
I didn't get all of what you asked, John.
Yeah, I think we're getting into the weeds
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, I think
right
we're
now, this
getting
is
way
starting-
off.
we're taking a deep dive.
Right.
There's a lot of things that are going to have to be developed on this site. There's a lot of things that are going to have to be looked at. This is just one piece of the puzzle.
Just the first.
And we're going to look, they'll be looking at water, they'll be looking at traffic, they'll be looking at intersection design, they'll be looking at traffic flow. They'll be talking about how many people will be working here, if there's going to be
Hours of
shifts and the traffic and stuff like that. So this is just a small piece. I think all RDA's asking is if we look at a bylaw that would increase the height from 40 to 65. And so it's just a small piece. And this will all come together with all the other
See,
pieces
they're all going to
for
come together at
discussion.
the same time,
Yeah.
or not.
And I think your plan is that all this information, all these questions that people are asking, you'll have all these questions answered before it even goes to town meeting.
And someone will think of something, but yeah.
Right.
we
But for the
hope
most part,
Our goal is to go to town meeting in the fall with absolutely as much information and as many, and all the boards that need to be in favor of this height increase and what it might result in, so that we all feel good about it. And we'll work with the FinCom to find out what do you think is the potential impact financially for the town, because I've heard numbers from 3 to 5 million a year in an increase in taxes for us. So these are all will be answered. The RDA is planning 2 meetings a month from here on in, which is not our normal habit. Through the summer, it'll all be posted, they'll all be open to the public, they'll all be taped. We'll be bringing in the developers, we'll be bringing in the fire chief, we'll be bringing in North Carver Water District and the Board of Health and Conservation, and as we format first with the developers.
Right. Bruce, all the things that you mentioned that are, part of this whole project, the water, the parking, the traffic, et cetera, none of that is going to be known until the developer knows how high he can build his building. Because that could change who the tenant is, which could change the entire business plan of what they're going to do. So this is the first step, and it's not going to circumvent any other steps that would normally happen on any project that goes on in town. But in order for the developer of the, who is going to either rent or sell the eventual building to a tenant, they need to know how high they can go so they can go to particular possible tenants and say, this is what I can offer you. And, it may be that some aren't able to accept a building that is smaller. It could be that some are certainly more than willing to accept the lower building on a bigger footprint. So nothing that you said is going to be circumvented, but that is all dependent upon how big the inside of the building can be, the height of the building, because that becomes their selling point to potential tenants down the road.
Okay. All right, and at some point in time, it'd be nice to take a site walk up there, and as you say,
I'll
if
make
you
that
want to
happen.
float a balloon up 65 and see what it looks
The
like.
old balloon test.
I mean, I
Cell tower days.
You get a heart from Shaw's.
I just can't express over the years that I've lived here since 1974, that was a wasted piece of land. And it was nothing but a problem for the town because of the fires that were out there, and because of the hazardous waste and the hazardous waste sites. And I think there were 3 areas that needed to be cleaned up out there. So it was a hazard to the town, and it was a hazard to the neighbors, and it was an expense to the town because the town was always trying to take the people who own the property to court to clean things up. And so then it was decided that, if you could utilize this and do something good for the town instead of this being a dumping spot and a waste spot. And when I went out there, it looked like a bombing site.
Yeah.
It was all, it had been mined, there was holes, there was ponds, there was abandoned buildings. It was a mess out there. And so this group, Route 44, took it over to clean it up, and in hopes, and with the rezoning, that some sort of park, green business park could be put in there. And so, no, this has been in development for years. There's still more to develop. This is just one piece of the puzzle. It may come together and it may not come together, and it's going to take some time to come together, but this is one more piece of the puzzle that needs to be solved.
When we meet with them next week, I'll see if I can get some Saturdays in June, as maybe 2 possible Saturday mornings in June for a site walk, and just invite any and all board members who need to see that. I know some of our guys need to see it. And I'll arrange with that, and I'll get back to you on it.
Mr. Chair, if I may, well, do we know why and who has asked that it be changed to 65? Is this just?
The company called Hillwood, and is the company that Route 44 is talking about to take over ownership of the property. Hillwood is a company that develops sites, develops buildings and logistics for sites that have already been cleared. Now, Route 44 has kind of cleared the site and made it buildable. Hillwood is the next person that comes in. Hillwood has a list of clients that have a potential for being here, relocating here or opening up a new facility here. And those clients are requesting that, based on current technology and economics, that height is of utmost importance to be able to automate what they do. There's, as far as we know, there is no confirmed tenant yet. They need to go out and say, we have a 65-foot building, you can use company XYZ's racking system in this building. You know, bring it on.
And our understanding is that they take it through site plan cooperatively, I assume, with a possible tenant. But, you know, they just finished doing this in North Andover, and like I said before you got here, I've been in contact with North Andover
Right.
quite a bit.
And so, unfortunately, forgive me for coming in late.
Yeah.
I was at my accountant's doing my taxes, but I asked that question because I wanted to make sure
Yeah.
that we are still just discussing this one piece of property.
Yep,
This bylaw would entail only that one piece of property.
only the Green District.
Okay. All right then, thank you.
And I had said before, it's not, we're gonna make it only for the Green District so that, you know, there's always been talk about a hotel down in
Right.
Edaville.
Exactly,
this will-
and that's
this-
the point.
this will
The
not-
town needs to know that we're discussing this piece of property
This piece.
in this particular setting,
Yep.
on this particular,
Only this site,
development.
only
Yep.
will it be able to put up
Exactly.
a beautiful
I think-
PowerPoint.
And that-
You made a good point by saying that, thank you.
Right.
I just wanted to make sure that I
Yep.
understood clearly.
No, we need everyone to understand, so, and I'm on email,
Okay.
sharon.clark@carverma.org. Please feel free.
And
Or
that
say-
language has to be ironclad.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We want it,
Pertaining to that property.
we
Yep.
want it ironclad, so there's,
Right.
You wanna make
we
it
want
more
it so there's no wiggle room that someone can come in and say, well, you did it for, I want a 5-story
And that's what we
business.
have, that
And
happens
he did
to
it
us
for the
all
Green
the
District,
time.
can we just,
Right,
et cetera, it's way over here, and it's like,
Okay.
no.
Well, I don't know if this would help, but I think in Kingston, they just put a big Amazon building up right next to the Home Depot.
They did.
So I'm assuming this building would be similar to it?
It's not that tall,
No,
is
that
it?
one's not as tall.
That
And
one's
it's
not as tall.
That's only a tall building.
And it's not as big.
Yeah. And
That,
it's on a much smaller piece of land.
yes.
that
Much
thing is
smaller.
ginormous.
It's about 800,000.
But he said
square feet.
it's
It's a-
not as tall.
How big is it?
About 800,000.
It's only 800,000?
Yeah.
So it would be, it's smaller than the one that we're talking about now.
By
Yes.
$1 million. We have $1.8 million.
Wow.
But it's gonna be taller than what that is. So
But
what I'm
that-
trying to say
but that's
is,
good for a
it kind of gives
comparison.
you an idea of what you're looking at.
Exactly.
It's a brand new building, this is what you pretty much gonna be proposing, but it's gonna be taller.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what the bylaw would.
What I'm trying to say, it's gonna help you out if you had someone trying to figure it out, to say, take a ride down, look at it.
Well,
Just imagine it a little taller.
I think
mean,
our
they did
goal-
a good job out there, I'll tell you that.
I mean, I haven't seen it except from the highway.
I'll
seem to-
drive through it.
I think I see most of the developments from the highway. But I haven't driven through it or seen it overall under construction, but, I mean, I know it's there, but I don't know the size.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to get the size, but you also have to know, too, that that building is right up against the Mall Road.
Yeah,
This building that's going to be in Carver is way off the road.
No, and
It's out in it's out in an area, it looks like an airstrip out there. That's what I thought when I first saw it, you know? Yeah. Yeah,
Are we
and Kevin
looking
was
to do
out there, it's a
just
big,
one
big
building,
area.
or is it
And,
more?
so that's why a site walk's important, you know, but,
all right, I will make that
Jesse
happen.
has a question.
okay.
Is this bylaw just for one building, or is this for the entire business park? So are we
It-
looking at
Well, this
just
be
one building, or are we looking
zoning
at the
for the-
possibility of multiple buildings?
It will be for the Green Business Park. The maximum number of square feet they can do is 1.8 million square feet.
On the ground.
Under the scenarios in the urban renewal plan, they looked at doing 3 buildings, but all broken down to no more than the 1.8 million square feet. So one was looked at, I think it was 750,000 square feet, another maybe 1 million, and then a smaller building.
Right.
But the maximum is 1.8 million square feet.
On the
Is
site.
that- And that's the maximum set by the MIPA study.
Right.
So my other question would be, at 40, doesn't cost the town any money if they build it at 40 feet. But if they went 65, fire department said they might need more equipment.
Oh, they definitely need more.
And who's gonna pay for that? Not the town, right?
Not the town. Nope.
Yeah.
What's the square footage of the Green Business Park?
Don't know, don't know the,
Yeah, I want to
About
say
200
it's
acres?
I want to say
300 acres?
300 acres, but I know not all of
Yeah.
it's usable.
Yeah, I think the Whitworth property alone was 160 or something.
Yeah. Don't the
But
town.
just to reply to your question as well, there are still, with a building that size, there would still be needs for the fire department.
No, I understand that. What I'm saying is, you put a building that size up, I just hope you don't think, the town has to pay for equipment to handle.
No, and Chief Weston has been in touch with the fire chief from North Andover and talked to him about everything that Hillwood offered and paid for
Right.
there. So
That's why
the
I'm
chief is,
asking,
right, but I mean, the only thing that the 40-foot would probably eliminate the need for is an aerial truck. But there's still, it's a large building, there's still other components to fire safety that the chief would require.
No, absolutely.
And that would be part of the,
Who's gonna pay for all
that would be part of the deal. Well, not only the purchase, but the maintenance. Ongoing maintenance would be part of the deal as well. So,
This isn't something that Carver can afford to pay for, to make happen,
Well, that's
such
what
as,
I'm
such as, put your building up, don't mind, we'll just go ask town meeting for a truck. That can't happen. And there was a lot of things, just not with the fire chief. The police chief had some concerns, did he need an extra guy at night? What's the safety? What's the security cameras? And Chief Weston has had several conversations, and they will hire a particular fire safety consultant who will be paid for by the developer when they get there, because Chief Weston says he doesn't have it in his budget to evaluate something of this magnitude, and he doesn't know, maybe the latest and greatest. Hillwood in North Andover took several, the fire chief and other members down to one of their other developments that was already built in Pennsylvania to look over, and he said they're so up to date and beyond on fire suppression because they don't want their building to catch fire any more than we want to have to put one out. But our first thought when this proposal came by was like, what is the chief going to think? And that has been part of our discussion every step of the way. And we've met with him, and he's had good conversations, and he's getting focused, and I think he needs the consultant because we don't have the money to pay a staffer to do that. And that's something that will hit further on down the road. But it's our goal to be able to say all our issues have been addressed satisfactorily. You come up with other questions. When should it get to you in site plan review? There are certainly going to be questions all along the way. But if we can get it to town meeting, then we'll see where it goes.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I just appreciate the fact that you want to be transparent.
Oh, God, yes.
And that is exactly why you're here. Why
Oh, yeah.
David's here. Thank you for your time and for your work on this.
Thank you.
Because this is the only way that we can go forward on this.
Oh, absolutely. We need input from absolutely
And I do
everyone.
appreciate the fact that we cannot have misinformation floating around with people being upset.
No.
We need it all, the only information that should be taken is the information that we pass on tonight and that we're sharing back and forth, being transparent about this.
And we'll do other meetings like this. We'll come in and give updates
Right.
as we move forward. Like I said, we have many meetings planned over the summer to try to get as much information and formatting as we possibly can without having pen to paper. And it's not just the idea that they have an idea of what will go there. We have to be prepared for anyone to have an idea of what will go there. And again, If we do the due diligence now with all the town boards and departments who need to have input on this, then if the Hillwood deal falls through, we're ready for the next one. Are we all set here? I know you have.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Is there any other questions? John, any other questions?
Yeah. I mean, all this will be discussed as time goes on. You just want to work on this bylaw to increase the height. It doesn't mean that it'll ever be 65. It
Yep.
might stay
They may come in
at
under.
what it is.
Yep.
But it'll be something to use to attract a developer. But you will have further hearings on it.
Yep.
They're open to the public. People can watch it on TV, or they can go to the public hearings, and eventually it'll come to the planning board.
And
other
anyone who
boards.
does have a question, I hope they reach out to either me or Savory or Paul or someone on the RDA for information. If they have a question on something that was said at a meeting, something that someone else said at a meeting, please check in with us.
Okay.
And with that, Mr. Moore?
There's just one other thing I'd just
Okay.
like to add if I can, and it's just something I'd like the planning board to think about. Right now, the proposal for the revision to the bylaw was going to be put in as a footnote to what's there now. And another way to go is to make it an actual in the chart, changing it there without a C18 below. So it's something to think about how you want to go about doing that. My personal feeling is that when you have something that's as a footnote, it kind of implies you're trying to hide something. So it may be for the act of transparency, if we're going to put this forward as a bylaw change, that we put it right in the chart, saying that Green Business Park, height 65 feet. And then there can still be all of the other things that have to happen to make that work. All of the other things that would be in that footnote. But from my opinion, and I just think it's something that the planning board should take a look at and try to figure out which is the best way to eliminate questions at town meeting.
No, I agree with you, because as we go from one town planner to another town planner to another town planner, which I have seen, it becomes confusing to the new town planner and to new boards. What does this bylaw mean? So it's good to have it plainly marked, so everybody can
And we're all elected
understand.
boards, people change.
I've seen that happen.
If we're all set here, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the RDA portion of the meeting.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
And seconded by Paul Costas. All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote. Savory Moore? Paul Costas? Aye. Sharon Clark? Aye. I don't think Pat Maher's on, is he?
He's on.
Okay.
He said aye.
He said aye.
He said aye again.
And we are adjourned.
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Okay, thank you for being here tonight.
And you can send that email to me, okay?
I will, thank you.
Thanks, Sharon. Have a good night.
All right, we'll continue with the regular planning board meeting, and it's become that time of year again for reorganization. So we're going to be looking for nominations for the chair, vice chair, and recording secretary, as we do at this time of year. So having said that, I'll turn the meeting over to Jim Walsh, and I guess then we'll entertain a motion for the chair, or not a motion, but a nomination.
Right, anyone have nominations for chair?
I would like to nominate Bruce Mackey for chair.
I would like to second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and second. Do we have any other nominations for chair? Mr. Gasky?
No.
No? Okay. So I guess we'll go ahead on that motion. All in favor of
Do we do
electing
roll call?
Mr. Mackey as chairman? We'll do a roll call vote. I'll start online with Mr. Gasky. Are you in favor of the motion?
Yes, John Gasky says aye.
All right, Mr. Shea?
Cornelius Shea says aye.
Mr. Mackey?
Kevin,
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Ellen Sordillo says aye.
All right. And unfortunately, you don't get the vote.
All right.
Okay, so we took care of that, and then turn the meeting back to Chairman Mackey.
Okay, but I thank all the planning board members. All right, so take a nomination for vice chair.
I would like to nominate Kevin as vice chair.
Do we have a second? I'll second that.
So we have a nomination for Kevin Robinson as vice chair.
Do we
Any,
need-
yeah, is anybody else, was, any other nomination, or,
Yeah, anyone else have a nomination for someone else as vice chair?
No,
No.
I don't.
Anyone else?
okay, so we'll vote on Kevin Robinson as vice chair. So we'll start with John Gasky.
Oh, John Gasky says aye.
Okay, Cornelia Shea.
Cornelia Shea says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
Ellen Sordillo, aye.
Okay, thank you. Recording secretary.
I'd like to nominate Ellen Sordillo.
I'll second that.
So you have a motion second. Any other nominations? Okay, seeing none, we'll vote on Ellen. John Gatsky. Ellen Sodillo for recording secretary. What's your vote?
Yeah, John Gasky says aye. Sorry.
Okay.
Cornelia Shea says aye.
Bruce Mackey says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
And Ellen Sordillo says aye.
All right, thank you. Okay, next we have an A&R, and this is 105 Rochester Road. It's map 96, lot 10, Rivers Edge Realty Company, and this is for a discussion and a possible vote to endorse. So I noticed that this is a piece of property that we had walked before. Some of the planning board members had walked before. I remember Mr. Shea was there. I don't know, John, were you there? Did you walk this property with us? I do remember Rich, yeah, walking us. So I guess everybody was there, I think, that, oh, just the four, okay.
It's the piece of property that the Redemption Center was.
No, this one was a piece of property that at that time was subdivided into 4 lots, and it had, what, 2 cranberry bogs, I believe, and a couple of reservoirs on it.
Yeah. It was right on the Wewantic River by the new bridge,
I didn't get the, I
the
didn't
Rochester
get the walk
Road Bridge,
Oh, okay. Up
Were you,
Rochester.
yeah.
behind
All
the
right.
stables there.
So the plan has been revised. So if you would like to speak about it, if you give us your name, please.
Yeah, for the record, my name is Mike Pimentel with JC Engineering, and that's correct. We originally had 4 lots in the original A&R, which was withdrawn, and a new A&R application was recently submitted that shows now only 2 lots and a parcel A that is not buildable. As recommended by the board, we went to the Conservation Commission to seek their input on the project based on a conceptual design of what it would look like for those 2 lots with houses, driveways, and septic systems. They did provide us their input. It was all positive. There was a tweak that we would make on one of the proposed driveways that is going to be constructed on Lot 2 down the road, that's going to be moved to be at least 100 feet away from the wetland. Other than that, there were no other concessions. Everything else looked good. Obviously, we still have to go in front of the Conservation Commission under a notice of intent application for whatever work we propose. So it's not an approval, an official approval by the commission, but simply their input on the conceptual design of the 2 lots. And now we're just simply here in front of the planning board to get your endorsement of the A&R so we can record it and move the project forward.
It appears that the building line on Lot 1 doesn't meet the minimum standards. The minimum standard is 120 feet.
What are you talking about?
On Lot 1, the building line it has here, it's listed at 116 foot 3 inches, and
Lot 1.
I think the minimum lot width at the building line is 120 feet.
The width at the 50-foot setback line from the road, I believe, is a minimum of 150 feet. The building line for Lot 1 is going to be farther away from that 116.3 foot setback. The building will be actually west of that line.
Maybe, Jim, am I mistaken? I thought the building line was the narrowest point on any property.
No. No, generally the building line, and you can tell, I mean, in all the towns that I've ever worked before, it's the front of the foundation with the line stretched out perpendicular. So, this 116.3 is just the narrowest part of the lot there.
Okay.
But probably they're gonna put the house between the 116.3, and then you have a length of 135.9 plus 150 plus 52.7.
Yeah.
So if you put the foundation somewhere in there, that should be well over the building line there.
The only, I would just recommend that, I also see that some of the road and the entrance way to it is on somebody else's property, but that's not an issue in regards to this, but my recommendation would be that these not be considered buildable lots without approval from emergency services and the Concom. That would be my only recommendation in regards to this. And a lot of that has to do with the entranceway in regards to Lot 2 and the ability of the fire and emergency services equipment to, if they sign off on it, I
Right,
don't have an issue.
So with the A&R lots, we're not really dealing with the development plan.
Well,
So this-
an A&R lot is an expected building lot, and as such, we can set any conditions necessary in regards to them. And I think that setting the conditions with approval from emergency services in regards to Lot 2's access way and the Concom, who's already been more or less in front of, because I don't see the 200-foot.
Well, in the reality, if the board endorses this, and with your conditions, they still have to go, in order to get a building permit, it does go through and get reviewed by
Then it shouldn't be
the
an issue.
fire department.
Right,
That's what I'm saying.
Then it shouldn't be an issue. Right, because they've already been in front of Concom, so that would be my recommendation on this.
I think it's kind of redundant. It's gonna have to go to the building inspector anyway. They're gonna have to look at this. I mean, right now,
Right now, if we approve it as a building lot, and
But,
as it's.
no, just for the record, you're not approving a building lot. So when the planning board endorses a A&R plan, you're not approving it to the zoning or the buildability. You're just endorsing the layout of the lots. So you're not saying, by the planning board taking a vote tonight on this, you're voting to endorse the plan, but there's nothing on zoning. Did you have a note on here regarding that, Mike?
I see for the center lot, parcel
Well,
A is
the
not.
parcel A is not a buildable lot, but we understand that we do have to go to the building department, conservation, even Board of Health, because just because you endorse this today as what you deem it as being buildable or a buildable lot, may not be, because we're gonna have to go in front of the Board of Health and we're gonna have to do a perk test on this property. If we find all clay on the property, then we can't even build on the
Well,
lot.
that's outside our control, but safe access to the property is within our control.
We provide access to the properties. We
Well,
provide access to lot number one.
It looks like there's about, if I'm not mistaken, you had 18 feet over a stream to access this property.
Nope, there's a culvert for lot
The
two.
culvert, yeah.
Yep, there's already an existing traveled way that goes through there. We're not changing that. We're gonna be utilizing that path. And then once we get into the property and we get closer to the house that's being proposed on the property, then we'll spur off with a new driveway, and that work would have to be approved by the Conservation Commission.
So it shouldn't be an issue.
No.
No, I mean, what's an average driveway? 10 to 12 feet wide if
Exactly.
you pave a driveway?
Well,
So this is 18 feet.
And we're not
and-
paving it.
But not only that, but this was made for heavy equipment anyway. It looked like it was made for dump trucks and typical equipment that, large backhoes or whatever that go out and work in the bog area. So,
But that's not a fire truck, and I'm just saying, if a fire truck has to turn into this, I would much prefer that before this is considered a buildable lot, that the fire chief signs off that he has proper access for the safety of.
Again, we're not discussing a buildable lot. We're discussing this as an A&R.
An A&R
Yeah.
is considered a buildable lot. That's, what you're doing is, when you separate a property due to the requirements of frontage, it's supposed to have safe access to the potential building portions of the lot, and that's part of the issue. I just want to make sure, and it's fine, if he wants to build on it, that's great, he's gonna have to go to the fire chief anyways and get permission.
So I feel like we're asking the same thing that's gonna be asked down the road.
yeah, how does this go, Jim? I mean, do we normally, I mean,
So if the plan is endorsed.
in a question like this, where we're going over a culvert to a lot, I mean, I think it's a reasonable question that, I mean, it's wide enough for me, and I think that they're putting heavy equipment over it now. I would think it would be fine. But does the fire chief look at these things? Does he work in coordination with the building commissioner, or?
So it's actually Jesse Boyle, who's the Assistant Deputy Fire Chief.
Mhm.
So he does all the code review on behalf of the fire department. So let's say the plan gets endorsed, then it gets recorded at the Registry of Deeds, then they can come back, and if they wanted, at some time, if they wanted to go forward with a house or, on one of the parcels, then they would move forward with the next step, which is apply for a building permit, which requires sign off with the notice of intent from the Conservation Commission, and then it's also reviewed by, fire, Board of Health, for the water and septic. So these processes are already in place.
Okay.
Okay, so with that being said,
Then I
I'm
will,
gonna make a motion to go ahead and endorse the A&R for 105 Rochester Road, map 96, lot 10, for River's Edge Realty Company.
Can I make a suggestion for amendment to also add a note to the plan that the planning board's endorsement does not mean it complies with zoning and/or determine its buildability, because that's going to be determined by the others.
There's a lady in back with her hand up.
Yeah, is there a time for questions from the public before you close the hearing?
On an A&R?
It's not a public hearing.
No, it's not a public hearing, it's a public meeting.
I didn't catch what you said. If you could just, if you could
come to
speak,
this
yeah,
microphone
if you
right
could
here.
speak in that microphone there, I just didn't hear what you
Right over
said.
here, we have an open mic.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering if you could go over with me where exactly. the
If you
lot
could give us your name, could you identify yourself, please?
Yeah, Kim Branch, Cherry Hill Drive, and I did sign it.
You gotta talk into the
Kim
microphone.
Branch to Cherry Hill Drive, and I signed it on the sign-in sheet.
Okay.
Oh, would you be able
Spell your
to?
name, please, so that the recording secretary can.
KIMBRANCH. Oh, so here's Rochester Road. And this is what it looks like. The shape is. And so frontage says one street line between side lot, you measure it for an A&R. Frontage measured, actual access to the potential building site, one street line between side lot lines to building site. So it says between side lot lines, and this looks like the shape of it.
So you
This-
want to answer,
I can't.
Mike? Actually, it should be the engineer who responds. So it's asking questions, I guess, about the,
So, this looks like the shape of the lot,
Which
on this lot. And the frontage bylaw says, the frontage measured, actual access to the potential building site from street line between side lot lines to building site, between side lot lines. So here's the shape of it, because that's the
So it would
TV
be the-
house.
So it'd be the frontage over here. That would be access to the property, right here. Which is the 150 feet.
And then where does it go?
This is the 150
Let me
feet.
see.
We have 150.
If you could talk into the microphone, we have to put this on record, and, we can't hear you.
Yep, she's referring to lot number 1 as far as the frontage in which access would be provided. And I'm explaining to her that the frontage is 154 feet along Rochester Road. And that's where the access, right here. This right here is located right here. So the 154
Where does
feet.
it start?
It starts right at this bound here and this bound here. And then it goes out to this lot. So this is the frontage in which we are providing access, not this frontage over here. So there's an entranceway right over here that's going to be utilized.
And how wide is this?
It's probably from edge to edge, maybe 20 feet, maybe 12 feet, let's say, from that corner to the edge of the entrance.
And are you using part of her property, the neighbor's property?
Well, the entrance right now goes over the neighbor's property, and a portion of it is obviously on our property. So we can obviously block off or remove this section of the paved road entrance on the Kivy lot and simply keep the remaining part of that driveway that's within our lot for access. We still have plenty of access to get through there.
So you're coming in through here? Here's her, you're coming in through here, and
In
then
that general area, correct?
tailing around there?
Well, we haven't made a decision how the driveway is going to meander to the house. We just know that that'll be our entrance to the site.
And where's the house going to be?
Oh, we haven't determined that yet. It's going to be probably somewhere in here.
Won't that be a rear lot then?
No,
it
it's not.
It has the 154-foot frontage.
Right here is the frontage. The minimum required is 150 feet. We're providing 154 feet. From lot corner to lot corner is 154 feet. Access will be right here at this corner, and we'll continue to utilize the travel way until we get to a point where we're going to spur off and go to the house.
But the frontage should be the 150 this way.
No, the frontage is going to be along the roadway. That's what the frontage is.
Yes, yes, it's going to start at Rochester, but then it goes,
So that's not the frontage, though. That's the side boundary line between our property and the Kivy lot.
well, the frontage is from the road
Yeah, it's
to the
the,
front
it's, the
of
frontage
the
is,
boundary line.
the frontage is the lot line that abuts the right-of-way line. So that's the frontage. This is simply the side boundary line.
But it's not going through the center. It says that the bylaw said it has to go through the center.
The bylaw says it has to provide direct access to the buildable portions
It's
of the
between
property.
side lots. Frontage measured, actual access to the potential building site from the street line between side lot lines.
Yeah, so between this side lot line here and this side lot line here.
But these are the side lot lines.
Well, no, this is another set of lot lines.
You can have more than,
That's,
you can have more than one
that's the
frontage.
side, and that's the side.
Nope,
You can have more than one frontage on a property. So I think originally, when this property was cut up, that was supposed to be probably access for a rear lot.
But that's still the property, part of the lot one property.
that is correct.
Yeah. But he has 154 feet of continuous frontage on a recognized road in the town of Carver.
And then the other one, where does it go?
This is lot 2, you're talking about lot 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, lot 2 is right here. So lot 2 begins here, and it ends over here. So the portion in which we're going to get access to the lot 2 is right over here, where there's an existing entranceway to the site. And from the,
And you, so you have 152.
the one,
How wide is this one?
the 150, well, approximately, let's say 20 feet, but the frontage from here to here is, I can't read it from here.
400 and
Is that what it is? I can't even read it from my glasses. Yeah, 480 feet. Yeah, 480.66 feet.
Yeah, that's what it says. I mean, you know, Jim's looked at this, the building inspector's looked at this, you know, we've looked at this. It meets all the requirements of the lots. You know, I don't want to cut you short, but we have other things we have to move on to for our meeting.
I was just gonna say one more,
Yeah.
because my concern is that that if you give it an A&R, they will just sell it to individuals at auction that may not realize that when I look on mass.gov and it shows net usable land area, so net usable land area, it doesn't include the rivers, the wetlands, and the Title V setback buffers, according to the GIS system, the Oliver mapping. So, and
Well, this will all be looked at by the Conservation Commission. So, yeah, so, you know, it just comes to us as a dimensional review, but it still has to go to Conservation. And so our determination is that, you know, dimensionally, it meets everything. And then, you know, lately it's been pointed out that we have to have access to the lots. And we've actually walked the site. We've actually seen that they do have access to these lots. Granted, one's over a culvert, one's over just an open area. They may have to tweak that driveway over a bit. They have access to it. After this, if you have any questions about wetlands or upland or whatever, they're going to have Conservation Commission meetings, and go to the Conservation Commission meetings and voice your concerns there.
And I also just want to mention that it's also a regulatory floodway, as well as a water supply protection area. And it does show that it's high probability of ponding of water there.
Well, that's up to the Conservation Commission. That's not a determination that we make.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Kevin, in
So-
regards to your motion?
You're welcome.
So we have a motion that Kevin's made to endorse the plan. Do I hear a second?
Jim had a recommendation on it?
Oh, okay.
Here's on a plan, so the board is really,
You did, then I'll be happy to second it.
Yes.
I don't see a note on here. Usually there's a note that says that, you know, the planning board's vote is not in determining the buildability of the lot or affirming the zoning. That's, you know, you're just looking at the lot lines, and then you say, okay, well, it meets the minimum requirements of zoning, but you're not saying this is a buildable lot.
Right.
That is up to,
That's all I,
right, so you're endorsing that plan, so you could ask as a condition to put that note onto the plan so that others know that the planning board is just only looking at the layout, and it's determined, meets the frontage requirement and the minimum area, and I think that's all that we're required to do.
Okay.
And then you're endorsing the plan for those measures.
Okay.
So I'm quite happy to second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Kevin, second by Mr. Shea. And any further discussion? The discussion was that, would you add that note onto the plan? We'll endorse the plan tonight and just saying that we would like to have that note on there. That, and could you repeat that again, Jim?
So basically, the board is not endorsing, the zoning on the parcel, or the buildability. They're just endorsing the layout of the lot.
Yep, logistically, how do you want that to work? We have the Mylar plan today without that note. Is that something that the board is going to sign tonight, and then we simply handwrite this note on there? Or do you want us to revise the plan?
Well, if you could handwrite that, that would be fine. I've done that before on pieces that I've worked on too, which would be fine.
Very good.
So we could sign. So we have a motion and a second. Those in favor to endorse, let's do a roll call. Mr. Gasky?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay. Mr. Shea?
He says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
Ellen Sodillo, aye.
So we have 4 endorsement and 1 abstention. All right. All right, thank you. And thank you for listening to our concerns the time that we went out to the sidewalk. I know this is quite a change in the plan. It's a reduction of 50% of the lots, but these lots make a lot more sense to me anyway, and I imagine to the other planning board members. Everybody had a lot of good input when we went to that site visit.
We're happy that everything worked out at the end. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a Mylar, and do we have, do we have some paper copies too?
We have
So
the
the note
paper-
will have to be added to those?
Yeah, no, we have to, do you want to just take it and add it, and then I can bring it and bring them, get the Mylar signed plus all the paper copies?
You want me to add it today, though, tonight?
Or add the note, like,
And write it, and then give it back to you tonight?
could be tonight, yeah.
Okay.
But I'm gonna still need, new paper copies for the board members to
Sure.
sign?
Sure.
Okay, so, we'll go ahead and do that. Do you need them scripto, or?
Yeah, we should. We're just gonna do this outside, and I'll be right back.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Is there standard language in your regulations specifically, or do you want to just simply say that the endorsement of the plan to the lots? Because we've done it before, but there was specific language in the zoning regulations.
Yeah, I think it's actually, some subdivision regs, I just don't know what offhand.
Maybe I'll find it online.
Okay, all right.
All right, so the next thing on our agenda is a sign permit. It's SYD and Associates LLC, 73 Main Street, Unit D, map 64, lot 12. Is there anybody here to speak about this?
Yes.
If you could just sit in the hot seat there and
Sure.
and give us your name and address, your association, please.
So my name's Stephanie Drum. I've been a CPA for 25 years, and I wanted to open up my own accounting firm in Carver.
Oh, nice, thank you.
Yes, yeah, yep.
So what do we have, Jim, want to explain the sign?
Right, so in your packet, you should have, John, can you see that? Did you get that in your packet? Okay. So that's what the sign is gonna, what it'll look like. It's on the freestanding sign at the front of the property. Back in, I believe it was 2006, November 2006. The owner of the property got a special permit for that signpost out front for oversized, signs on that signpost. I'm calling it a signpost, but the sign directory that is out in front of the property. remember, it's where Mamma Mia's is located.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to ask, where is this?
Right, so
Yeah.
Mamma Mia's up at the top, and then I believe the sign person went in and actually installed it a little ahead of time, but it's at the very bottom. It's very, good looking. And so there's already a special permit for this, for the site, for being a little oversized, but
Okay.
other than that, it's not just that one piece of sign, and it's got the name on both sides. So just recommend approval.
Okay, so it has to be that size anyway,
To fit in.
just to fit it in, yeah.
Right.
All right, all right. So, entertain a motion to approve the sign permit. Oh, before I do that, I guess, is any of the board members have any questions? Mr. Gasky, have any questions?
No.
John, okay. Anybody else? Okay, so entertain a motion to approve the sign permit.
I'll make a motion to approve the sign permit for Sid and Associates LLC, 73 Main Street, Unit D, map 64, lot 12.
Cornelius Shea will second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Seeing none, we'll start with Mr. Gasky.
John Gasky says aye.
Okay, Mr. Shea.
Cornelius Shea says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye?
Evan Robinson, aye.
All right. That was an easy one. Thank you, and good luck with your new business.
Thank you.
And do we have something to sign that tonight?
Not a special permit, just the application.
All right, so while we're passing that around to sign,
So, John, do I have your authorization to sign on your behalf? Otherwise, I gotta track you down. You said okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
all right, so while that's being passed around and signed, let's go to the status of a subdivision, and this is Limbia's Path, and this is to provide a status of what's going on out there right now. If you could talk about this, Jim, and then, tell us who's here tonight to speak about this.
Sure, we have Karen Cash from Sinbron Construction and Mary Williams.
Yes.
Yep, nice to meet you all. I guess Karen inherited the property and has been trying to finish off the development. They were in last year we had Fussin O'Neill do a inspection of the site to come up with a checklist because they were getting ready. They wanted to eventually get a lot release for the final lot on the property. And so we had Fussin O'Neill go through, do an inspection of the site, come up with a punch list of items that needed to be addressed. And so to factor in the cost for a performance bond for when the lot gets released. The developer has been working to get as many of those items completed on the list as to bring the cost of the bond down to a lower amount. Tonight, I believe you're coming in to see if you can put the foundation on the lot. Is it lot? I get the lot 6 or?
Oh, it is one, I'm sorry.
Okay.
The inclusionary is
Right. So the remaining lot, what they want to do is come in and put the foundation in on the lot prior to paving the road, because then that way all the heavier equipment to, like the cement truck and other equipment to put the foundation in, get that in, and then that way, then they will come in, pave the road, so that way there's no damage to the road in there. I did talk to John Woods, Andy Glines from Fussin O'Neill. John Woods is our DPW director. Also Jim Bander, our interim building inspector, and also Amy Quessel, our attorney from KP Law. They all said there shouldn't be a problem doing that. If they go ahead and they're issued a foundation permit, it's at the developer's own risk, so that if something were to happen, you know, they couldn't come back on the town, you know, for a claim. So that's, you know, one of the reasons they're here. And then also wanted to get updated information on the conservation area that's part of the subdivision, where it's about 3 acres of conservation land that's going to be transferred from the developer to the Conservation Commission. There's also a couple of easements and need clarification, because one of the easements originally was intended to handle a drainage pipe from the bioretention basin along 2 property lines, and then there would be an outfall kind of near where the conservation land is. There was a problem when that drainage pipe was kind of mislocated when they put it in, and so there was an easement along the 2 property lines. I believe it was 10 feet on each side of the property line, that would also provide access to the open space area. And but then they also provided a different easement for where the drainage pipe was relocated. So we want to clarify that, you know, see where we stand with that paperwork, so we can get it to our attorney to review. And then also on the affordable house, originally they were looking to work with the Plymouth Redevelopment Authority to market the house. The individual who is certified to do that for the Redevelopment Authority left the Redevelopment Authority, and so they didn't have anyone to do with deal with the marketing. I outreached to Department of Housing and Community Development, also known as DHCD, and they provided me with the listing of lottery agents to help the developer in the marketing of the house, because there's a whole host of regulations that need to be followed to comply with the inclusionary zoning bylaw and the state regulations. So what I'll do is turn it over to Ms. Cash. Go ahead. If you want to both go over and sit at the table there with the mic.
Good evening. Mary Ellen Williams and Karen Cash. I don't know where you want us to start, but there's a few things going on here. So would you like us to start with the...
Is there anything that we have to vote on here tonight, or are we just here listening to?
Well, there's a couple things, because Karen has finished the inclusionary unit, but is unable to get a certificate of occupancy, because I think Jim had concerns with, and may I say she's passed all the inspections, but she's not getting the CO, because Jim had concerns that we might try to sell that, and...
Right, we want to make sure that we're not going to release the certificate of occupancy until we know what the plan is to market the unit.
So you were kind enough to share that list with us. We have reached out to someone, we received a contract one on Friday.
Yes, from Paul Cusin from Delphic Associates in New Bedford.
Can you say that name slowly for the record, so our...
Paul Cusin.
Into the microphone?
Oh,
Sorry
Paul
about
Cusin from Delphic Associates in New Bedford. He's the one that's going to be marketing.
So we may have a problem with that. My concern is, are they allowed to market this and put it in the affordable lottery if we don't have it completed? That would be my concern.
Right, so maybe I can talk to, what's his name again?
Paul Cusin.
Paul.
Yeah, I can give you the spelling of his name. I did let him know the determination at the planning board meeting about the garage on the home, and he understood that.
Right. Is it Paul Curson?
It's, I believe it's, hold on, let me just find it.
We brought this up one time
It's Paul E. Cuson, C-U-S-S-O-N. And it's Delphic Associates, LLC.
Okay.
Now, Jim, I just wanted
Yeah,
to
maybe
point
I'll ask
out,
Jim about that.
you had just mentioned in briefing the board about the state, but if you remember, this inclusionary unit cannot be considered as part of the town's inventory because
Right,
it's
we're not-
different.
Right, it won't go on the subsidized housing inventory, but it will
Yeah,
still be part of it.
could you give us the history of that? Because some of the planning
Okay.
board members have forgotten.
Right. So, years ago, I believe it was in 2015, can't remember if that was roughly 2015 when the project was finally approved. I have to
Yeah,
double
it
check.
was a long time ago, yeah.
Right. And so at the time, it didn't show on the, so the intent was to be an inclusionary unit. So under the conservation subdivision bylaw, you can get an extra unit if you have an extra lot if you have an inclusionary unit. And so it was determined that, I can't remember the lot number, is it lot 5 or 6?
For the inclusionary?
For the inclusionary.
It's
5.
Lot 5, okay. So,
Well,
No,
let
no.
Jim,
so lot 5, so our bylaw is
Oh, it's
inclusionary.
House 5.
It's House 5,
Okay.
Lot
House 5,
4.
Yes.
Okay,
House 5.
lot 4, 5 Olympia's Path.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So that's the inclusionary house. And so more currently, when they came before us, the question came up, oh, okay, all the other houses have garages on it, and under the affordability guidelines for both the state and the inclusionary bylaw is that the exterior of the homes are to all look the same. So that means if you have a, say, a colonial and then you have a garage, then all the houses in that subdivision have to have the same thing on the exterior, including the affordable. Now, on the inside, you don't have to have the same standard of, quality of finishes as the, the affordable. The other houses can be different, and you can use a lesser degree for the affordable unit. And so I believe it was last fall, was looking into that. Got feedback from the state. I sent them pictures of all the houses, and they determined, no, the 5 Olympia's Path, the affordable home, would not qualify on the subsidized housing inventory, also known as the SHI, the state's SHI list. And but they said, you'd still make it an affordable house locally. So what we asked the developer to do was to go through and use an affordable lottery marketing firm to help market the unit. What they do is they go through, they make sure that the affordable unit meets all the state guidelines in terms of income, sale price, that the appropriate deed restrictions are put on there so that in perpetuity, this house will remain an affordable unit for the town. And so, so that's what I, have been asking them to, to work on. And then in addition to the affordable unit, so the affordable unit is one of those items. And so one of the things we decided to do was, okay, until we have it all straightened out in terms of the marketing, we wanted to hold the certificate of occupancy until, there's an agreement put together. I've had a chance, and the building inspector has a chance to talk to Delphic Associates and find out what they need in order to move forward with the marketing of the house. And if they need to release the certificate of occupancy, then we can agree to do that, but we just wanted to make sure that no certificate of occupancy was issued, because if the house hasn't been marketed yet, then you don't need a certificate of occupancy to locate in there. So that was one of the areas that we're trying to resolve.
How does that address the fact that it doesn't have a garage?
It doesn't.
It does?
So it doesn't have a garage. And the problem was when the planning board approved the project back at some point in the past, that was not a, it was shown on the plans as not having a garage. And then apparently, through conversation with the former planner, I guess there was a conversation between the builder and the former planner, and they had agreement that a garage would not be on that particular property.
And that's okay with the state and making it affordable or?
No. So the state said, would not accept that property as counting towards Carver's subsidized housing inventory. So that means, so the state says, yeah, you still have it as affordable housing unit following the program guidelines, other than it doesn't look like all the other properties. So the one downfall for the town is it doesn't count as one of the units on the housing inventory.
And we already voted on that.
And we had a vote last
We'd have
year.
to do that, because I know we looked at it, and it was confusing at one time. It looked like it had a garage, and then later on, the plans that we approved, they changed somewhat, and then it didn't have a garage. So we already went through a hearing, back in time. And so then, I think that was, Will was here, I think. But that was a while back. Yeah, well, both of us were here,
It was a Zoom hearing we had.
Yeah.
Where you acknowledged that.
But it was a while back. So then we decided, well, okay, seeing all the evidence that was presented, we said, well, okay, it looks like the final plans didn't have a garage on it. So it's not gonna be counted by the state, but we're still making it an affordable unit.
Okay.
Anyway, so it still helps a family in the area to have an affordable unit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all they're really looking for us to do is to supply them with a copy of the signed contract, a check in the amount of $3,500, special permit, house plans, site plan, and the affordable distribution plan. And I have no idea what that is, but we'll find out. But I think that may be something that they can assist with. And then they just have some simple questions about, any municipal services, which we don't have. So other than that, it's just a matter of
Right, we have a conversation with Mr.
you getting in touch with
Kusan?
him.
Excuse me?
Which, Kusan is the
Yes,
name?
Paul.
Yes.
Paul Kusan,
Yes.
okay.
And what we can do, Jim, is forward the email to you that he sent to Karen, so that you can see what he's looking for, and you can confirm that with him.
Mm-hmm, okay.
And then once you have given that, you're okay, then Karen will send out the check for $3,500, and we'll get that in process.
All right, so that's,
Which I'll just add, it's considerably less than what the town of Plymouth was looking for, so we're happy for that.
mhm. So that's the fee you had to pay for,
Yes.
to Delphic to do the marketing?
Exactly, yep. And it's much less, so, but they say that they can get it right in the lottery as soon as we get this to them.
Mm-hmm, okay.
So, that's it on that subject matter.
All right.
So then, Mr. Chair, this also is in regards to seeking permission to put the foundation in. I respect the fact that you don't want to ruin the road, but what's to say that the foundation goes in and then it just sits there, and it's just a foundation? By us agreeing with that, do you have plans to go ahead and not only put the foundation in, but to go ahead and start working on the building of the house?
Well,
We
the
can
thing
only
is,
put
this
the
lot hasn't been
foundation in.
released yet.
Yeah,
So it hasn't
But
been
we
released.
only
We're
released
holding
it
it
based on
till the
the foundation.
completion of the roadway. So what they're asking is, if they can put the foundation in, it's before they do the pavement, so the pavement won't get scarred up. So, but the town still
Yeah.
holds that lot for the completion of the roadway. So once the
Exactly.
roadway's completed, so they'll install the foundation, the roadway will be completed, and then eventually, we'll say, once the roadway's completed and approved the drainage and all that stuff, then we'll release that lot, and then they can build a
Okay.
house on it, yeah.
All right.
That's how that goes.
no,
It's a little different
just a
request,
foundation
but,
plan, I think, that we had discussed, correct, Jim?
Right, so when I spoke with Mike Frascini,
Yes, yeah,
he was seeking to put the foundation on.
yeah.
He recognized that it would be at his
At
risk.
yeah.
And so, But still, the town retains the lot until such time we have a final inspection by Fuss and O'Neill, or actually, you can also do a bond. Usually put the bond on the lot so that way, if something happens, then the town has something
As you
to
can
recover.
imagine, this is still in the estate, so it's been financially sensitive. So we're
Mhm.
trying to figure out the best ways possible so as not to tie up too much of the estate funds. So if, by putting that in, that allows them to finish up the road, finish the catch basins, and then perhaps you'll sign off on it, and then Karen can sell that last lot.
Right, so but we'd have to still come back for a lot
Oh,
release on the
absolutely,
board.
would have to come forward for the lot release, but it's just, those are the steps that we're taking because we can't, the estate can't afford to put up a bond right now.
So, right, and then we'll still need Fuss and O'Neill to go in and do an inspection before the
Absolutely.
board
It's my
releases the
understanding
lot.
that Karen has talked to Andy Glines.
I
and
did,
and
yes.
she's talked to John Woods.
And John Woods.
Yeah.
And John Woods will be there for the inspection when the roadway goes in, which we are on the agenda for that, which will be soon, as soon as they can do it. And also, I've been in touch with Brian from Clean Basins, who is going to clean out all the catch basins, either Friday, definitely Saturday. We had an appointment on Saturday, but with all the rain, there was a delay, so he was unable to get there. But those are scheduled for this week, so I'll be cleaned out. And that's two of the last.
Mr. Gasky has a question.
Oh, okay. Okay, are you
Um,
finished?
so-
Did you have anything more, or? John, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, a couple of questions. First one is, the house hasn't been built yet?
Which,
So
Is that correct?
Well,
Sorry, you're talking affordable house?
There's
No.
one vacant, the affordable house has been built, it has passed all the final inspections. That's one
Okay.
issue. And then the
Uh,
other one we're talking about is the vacant lot. That's the one
Okay.
lot remaining.
All right, that was one of my questions was, the way it was talking, I thought the affordable house had not been completed yet. So, with regards to, and this is, I guess, as much for my own edification as anything else, the affordable house, and obviously it's going to be sold at a much lower price than what the surrounding homes are going to be going for. How is that going to affect the comps with regards to people buying and potentially selling their homes in the future?
Well, I wouldn't have an answer for that because that's something that the town approved. And so in every project that is in the town, you have affordable units. So I don't think that those would be looked at as, comps as far as any other sales are concerned, because you can't look at, from a real estate standpoint, you can't look at something that's selling for full market value versus something that's being an inclusionary unit and/or an affordable house, because it just doesn't work that way. We can't sell it for what it's worth. We're taking a hit for it as part of the fact that the town allowed him to put in 6 lots.
Right. Well, that's the question that I have is when one of the other houses comes up for appraisal and they start to look at the sales of the surrounding units and the obvious disparity in the price of the houses due to the restriction on the affordability and whatnot, is that going to diminish the value of the surrounding units, or is it something that's even considered as part of the equation?
I'm quite certain it doesn't even affect the other dwellings, because I know what the other properties have sold for, and even recently they've sold for full market value, and the prices are inflated right now. But on the plans that were approved for this subdivision, it clearly states it's an inclusionary unit. So you would know if you're doing an appraisal that that particular house cannot be appraised at the full value at the other 5 houses in the subdivision.
Okay, yeah.
And that would be the same for, there are many projects in town that have the same same circumstance. And from a real estate standpoint, you can't take an affordable unit and compare it to a regular market, full market value unit. It doesn't work that way because it doesn't have the same values.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's on the deed, it's deed restricted, but I don't know ordinarily if it was under the state housing, the SHI, would they have something to say about this? About, further down the line, if that house was sold, how much they could sell it for?
Well,
It's
the-
within the deed rider.
Right,
There
the
are
deed writer
restrictions.
controls,
Yep.
the values.
All right,
We have,
okay.
there's another property in town where an individual is selling one of the Carver development where they're in the affordable unit, and there's a board of trustees, the trustees became aware of it, and they've contacted the town and said, okay, they've also contacted that particular owner who wants to sell and said, hey, look, you have to follow certain procedures, and it's in the deed rider what those procedures
There's a
are.
formula that has to be followed.
Right.
And you have to get written approval from the state. If we use the state's deed rider, in which it looks like this particular company is willing to do, and I don't know how they can do that if we don't fall under the state's guidelines. That's yet to be seen, but if you read that deed rider, it will state that you have to follow a formula, and you also have to
Right.
get a resale certificate and record it at the registry when that person goes to resell it.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, does that answer your question, John?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we're here tonight to look at the placement of the foundation and the lot we're holding as a bond for the road. And we're also, you've had a discussion with Jim on what you have to do for the affordable unit. And was there something else?
Well, we still have more, now we're up to date with, they found a company to help market it.
Okay.
And I was having a conversation with that company so that we make sure that, we're on the same page as to what they need to see and so on, and
Okay.
we can move on with that.
So, just to say that these things, the affordable units aren't that, a little difficult to deal with.
It's an
I never realized, I mean, the board just usually approves it, and then we let the town planner take care of the paperwork, and with past planners, there was never a clear trail of what they did. Now,
Yeah.
I find out, and then these places that you deal with to sell or to put these places out for bid or whatever, they're constantly changing, and one place goes out of business, and then you have to deal with somebody else. So it's a very difficult thing.
We
I
did
mean,
get rejected from one company because they said it was too small of a project.
Well, meaning they probably wanted multiple units to market, from
Yeah.
the same development.
Who
Where it's kind
knew?
of hard, so that's one of our challenges, we just have a lot of these single units, and so there's no economy of scales
Yeah,
on the marketing side of the affordable unit.
that's why we need some of these bigger developments, 50, 60 units, and then you get a half a dozen units. Which,
Oh, Jim,
that's another thought altogether, but, so generally, we just have a unit here, a unit there. I mean, which is good, that at least it's the only type of affordable housing that's being generated in this town, but it's just unit by unit at a time. And, but at least it's something, it's, but that's the way it is. Unless you have a bigger development, then you get more houses out of it,
Right.
but we haven't seen that. All right, and what else do we have to
The other thing, I
discuss?
think, was the easement. You wanted to discuss the easement.
Right, so there's the, and I know there was an original easement, I don't know if that was,
Well, the original easement actually was within the lines of Lot 3. And what happened was, we discovered that the original developer had placed the line on the other lot
So-
for the drainage easement.
So, I'm sorry, on page 1 here, sorry, of our paperwork, it's showing it's clearly on lot 3, running at an angle. But-
It was on Lot 3, then when Mike Vicini came in, the original developer passed away 2.5 years ago. He had put in the drain pipe in the wrong location.
So does it split the property lines now? Is that?
It does not split the property lines, but a new plan was prepared. I think Jim has it right there.
Yeah.
And it was prepared and proposed for a different easement
This
area.
was the original, John.
Yeah.
I just wasn't that. Because I'm getting confused because I'm looking at, that was the original? So
Right.
it split
No,
the
it was
line.
just,
Yeah,
it
it
was
looks like
just
it was
within
10 feet on
3.
either side.
Yeah, but this one runs 100% through
It
lot
was
3.
within 3.
Right, yeah, that was what I was.
So the drain line was supposed to
That's
run
the new one.
perpendicular
That's the
to
new
the
one.
property
Right,
line.
so it was on 3, and now it's in
Yes.
between the two.
Yes.
Wait, no.
Well, it's
she's
all
saying the
within
opposite,
Lot
Jim.
2.
It's all within lot 2, okay.
It was originally all within Lot 3, now it's all within Lot 2.
So on this, just on this big thing that we're holding here, I don't know if you're holding it.
Is it Plan
package.
Book 64, page 174?
I just, if you don't mind, I'll, come around. It's just saying, was this the original?
No, that's the new one. So see,
So
this,
the original one split the 2 property lines.
I don't know about that, because if you look at this right here, it's within 3. So that's interesting, because this is the subdivision plan that was recorded. And see it within 3?
On this page here.
Yep, that looks totally different than this one.
That's, I'm trying to find out. It's
This is the sheet plan. I don't know if all the first sheet plan, I don't think those were all recorded, but this is what they had to do because the pipe was already installed and it was installed in the wrong place. And no, that's okay.
No, from 3 to 2.
Oh, the other way around.
Well, so what they did was, I mean, I don't know, it doesn't really make a difference where it was supposed to go because it isn't there.
Exactly.
So that doesn't really make any difference at this point. So what happened, it probably was supposed to be on Lot 3, and it was running parallel to the property line, that side property line.
Exactly.
So it was between the side property line and the dash line on Lot 3. And it was supposed to run that way.
Right.
It was not placed correctly.
Correct.
And it just ran out, and it crosses a portion of Lot 3, the actual pipe itself, a small portion of Lot 3, and it goes through Lot 2 to the open parcel, which was the drainage area out there.
I don't think it goes across 3 at all. I think it's.
I mean 2.
2.
It goes across 2. It goes, well, it catches part of Lot 3, according to the plan, at the street line.
At the street line. right
Yeah,
there
at the street
point.
line,
Yep.
yeah.
I think you mean lot 2, but.
Yeah.
This is where it is now, but, yeah.
This is where it is now, right there.
She's saying this is where it is.
No, it says existing subsurface drain pipe. So that crosses Lot 2.
Yes.
So, in order to accommodate that drainage pipe, the easement was widened, so it took in that pipeline.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was.
Otherwise, it was only going to be 20 feet wide. Now it's 20 feet wide at the street line, but it's probably 40, well, it's, who knows what it is. It's 40 or 50 feet now, or 60 feet.
So now
It's just
forms a
under
big
50.
It's like a triangle.
Yeah.
It's like a triangle. It was supposed to be a square, yeah. I mean, or a
The solid-
rectangle.
The solid line is the,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Now I see it.
Yeah. So that's the way it is now. So that's fine. And it was adjusted.
An easement, we recorded an easement prior
Yep.
to the sale of that lot too.
Yep.
And it runs to the town
Mm-hmm.
for that area.
So,
Access, and if you needed to get to the drainage pipe for some reason, That's already been granted to the town and recorded.
Okay.
So the other question I have, does that also allow the neighbors in this subdivision to access the open space parcel?
I do not believe so, but if the neighbors want to access it, couldn't they just go through their backyards?
Oh, no, that's what the easement's for.
If you're on that side.
I know,
Yeah.
does it?
Because the only two lots that back up to it are lots 2 and 3.
You're right.
Oh, you're right.
Transferred
You're right.
it to the Carver
But do you think,
Conservation.
was it that a requirement of the original subdivision for
Well-
the neighbors to get back there?
I'm
Well,
just
one of the,
Because they putting up all the fences now,
Right. So, yeah, I asked Jim this question,
Yeah.
and I said the same thing. Can't the neighbors just go out to their backyards? But it's not that way.
No, there's only-
The conservation land only is in back of a couple of
Two
lots, 2 or 3
Yeah.
lots,
Right.
yeah.
lot 2 and lot 3.
So,
Was it a requirement of the subdivision approval to have all the neighbors access that area?
well, it's a question of whether it will be accessed or not. There's a lot of conservation subdivisions that are built in that conservation land is only used as a buffer.
Right.
And it's, you know, people don't go out there and cut down trees and put picnic tables out there in baseball parks and stuff like that. So, in some of the subdivisions, they've actually made their conservation areas open to the public, where it's a field or next to a cranberry bog, and they've
think
put up
it's a
fancy
swamp, though.
buildings and stuff like that. Yeah, this is something different, so
Yeah.
I mean, people are allowed to access that if it does go to the Conservation Commission, and it could be people all over town. But if there's no trail there, if there's no road there,
Right.
it's more of a buffer area for the people in the subdivision. But
Right.
I don't know, what do you have to say, Jim, about this? I know
No,
we
it's just,
discussed it.
usually if you have an open space area, the original intent was to have access there.
Yeah,
And so the way things have transpired, you can't get back there.
right.
And then I believe I know the owner of Lot 2 has a fence over the property. I don't know if it covers the access way, if their fence, it appears like it goes to the property boundary with Lot 3.
Okay. He's
Um,
fully aware of this, because this was done before he purchased Lot 2. The
Right.
fence was put up subsequent to Mr. Ficini selling him that house, so,
So the fence was before Mr. Ficini sold it to
no,
him?
after,
After?
after.
Right, but,
And so my point is, he is well aware of this, because we had many discussions with his attorney and explaining the situation, because I had to have complete disclosure with her to show them what the plan was, what the easement was, and it was all recorded and provided to them. So if he's put a fence up, then he's put that up on his own with complete knowledge that that is there.
because that could be a problem, and then, it blocks any access if people wanted to use that property line to access the conservation area.
Right, and if it belongs to the Carver Conservation Commission at some point or another, they might want to go inspect the area, or, so.
Yeah, I don't, do they have regulations on,
Well, the state is-
clearing access to properties like this?
The state would require that easements be kept.
Yeah, you would think,
Yeah.
yeah. But then if it's just nothing but a swamp and a briar patch,
It's still somebody's right to go through.
right, yeah, but how many people are gonna use it? It won't be me.
Well, one of my questions was, no. If I decided to take my dog for a walk out there, is
Yeah,
I gotta come
yeah.
out and shoot me.
I don't think I would advise that, it's pretty muddy, yeah.
I mean, I've seen this before, but then actually people have put gates across their property where these easements are, so that, people couldn't access it. But in this particular case, I don't know if it's a problem or not. I don't know if we're looking, if we're looking at this as a problem that may never happen, or, I don't know.
I just want to say that I did not see anything in the original approvals. So if there is something there, then we're going to have to go back to the drawing board and figure out how to resolve it. But I did not see anything in any of the approvals and/or permits that required a specific designated area for the public to access that open space parcel.
Well, it says, on this plan here, it says existing, and this is from the property line of 2 to 3, and then you have the dash line on lot 3, and this is where the drainage easement, where the drainage pipe was supposed to go, but
Yeah.
it says existing 20-foot wide easement, wide access and drainage easement.
But whose access is it? Is it just the
Well,
town's, or is it the public?
If it goes to the Conservation Commission, I would think that it could be anybody in the town of Carver
Okay.
could use that.
I believe,
All right, yeah.
I
So-
believe though, when it's listed as being usable for passive recreation and conservation use in the packet that we were handed, so I would expect that that meant some sort of access should be allowed.
Well, the access has been granted to the town of Carver. So,
But, right.
So, and then I guess the question, okay, so there's two, on this particular plan right here, there appears to be two different easements.
there's
One's a-
actually one, because if you read the legend, I believe it says he's gonna move it.
Oh, yeah, then the other one does say relocated access and drainage easement. Well, no, one's relocated and one's existing. So that whole triangular, or sort of triangular-looking piece is an access and drainage easement.
Correct.
So I don't know where his fence is on this, but there's gotta be some way, either through Lot 2 or through Lot 3, that if somebody, and that's mostly lawn area, I believe, for these houses, that if somebody wanted to access that piece out back, they could access it that way.
Keep in mind, both of those owners of those properties bought their lots subject to easements of record that were shown
Right.
in the plan.
Right,
So,
right, right.
Shouldn't have been able to put a fence on an easement.
that is correct. I would agree with you on that.
And then there's, it raises concerns if you're saying that's all swamp,
Because if the town had to go in there,
Went
what you
through
do,
Concom.
you guys fence down and get in there.
Yeah.
Right, so,
Well, Muddy Brook runs right behind there, so again, that the town might need access on that because Muddy Brook has a history in this town.
But, yeah, I mean, there were no other requirements, and there was nothing, I mean, there's nothing noted on the plan, or there wasn't anything in the decision. I mean, I think they do have access out there. I don't know, I did see the fence out there, but I think there's a way that can be accessed, if need be.
so maybe it's something we can allow the Conservation Commission to pursue?
Yeah, I mean, if
they
the
need
Conservation
access to
Commission ever wanted to go out there and say, allow somebody to make trails out there or something like that, I guess they'd have to take a look at that. But I don't know if that's our problem right at this particular point in time.
Right, because condition number 5 by the planning board says, the proposed open space parcel shall be restricted to conservation and passive recreation uses and shall remain unbuilt upon. Access to parcel C shall be provided via a gravel entry with 3 parking spaces at the eastern end of parcel C. It's number 5 on the conditions from,
I believe that was a preliminary subdivision plan.
no, it says, Limbia's Path decision, December 17th, 2014, that's condition number 5, so I don't, and it was signed by, Ms. Hanlon, Bruce Mackey, Kevin Robinson, and Jim Hoffman.
And what,
It's assumed that
you say it's number 5.
it's the same. At the end of whatever, findings, and then it says condition.
Oh, this is the memo, okay, yeah, I got the wrong thing. Proposal of this space shall be conveyed to the town of Carver. eastern end of parcel C.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't know what,
I don't know.
I don't know either. I think they were probably numbered A, B, and C
Yeah.
because it falls under lot 3, and then they changed it to numbers rather than letters.
Did you see that, Jim?
Yeah, I
On the
noticed
conditions?
that, but I think that was part of it was probably lettered in the preliminary subdivision plan. So I believe that was.
I don't know, I don't know what to do with it now. I mean, obviously you can't, I don't know, build driveways across people's property and put parking spaces
Right,
out
I
there
wouldn't
now.
agree, I wouldn't, I would think that would be a bit excessive.
Yeah.
Just clearly marking it and allowing access through a 10-foot section along the property line would be the way to go.
I mean, I think it has to be looked at by the Conservation Commission if we give it over to the if it goes to the Conservation Commission. First to see if that property will really be used, and,
Did you say it's already been handed over to the Conservation Commission? I'm sorry.
It hasn't, no. I prepared
Okay.
the deed, I sent the draft deed over to Jim, and I think you may need to get that approved, correct?
Right, so I have to have it reviewed by council,
Exactly.
town council.
Yep.
yeah, I could see that if it was 50 or 100 acres, and it was a little different setup, but here we have a little 6-lot subdivision, and it's a
Right.
small amount of land.
What if
But I
people
mean-
walk their dogs or take
Yeah.
their kids to the walks, and it kind of expands your
Yeah.
little 30,000-foot parcel out.
Yeah. I don't know, I think it's something that has to be looked at by Conservation if the parcel goes to them.
So maybe just ask legal counsel to take a look into it as well.
Yes, yeah.
In addition
I mean,
to
that's
reviewing-
unusual. I've never seen that. I didn't see that in the conditions. I mean, and nobody questioned it, but it's kind of unusual that we have to provide parking spaces and stuff like
But
that,
right, it
for,
might have changed since then. I'm not familiar
Mm.
with the rest of it, so.
My name is on that, and I don't remember that,
no, I know.
and you don't either.
No, but my memory's not as good as it used to be either. But that's very unusual.
But it
That's
sure
kind of
does seem that
unusual.
you made the owner of the property aware of the conditions
Yeah.
set forth upon his ownership of the property.
The owner of Lot 2 was fully aware of that easement area when he purchased this property. There was a little bit of back and forth, and they weren't very happy about it. But we had to secure that easement area prior to his purchase, because otherwise it never would have happened.
All right, so,
All right, so I guess, yeah, we can just refer it to council and then,
yeah, and then the Conservation and see, what they would do with, what they would recommend with something like that,
Mhm.
but, I mean, somebody has to take a look at that and see. I mean, I don't really see how you can construct a parking lot there. I mean, people, I guess somebody would have to go out and actually take a look and see if that's a usable piece of land other than for buffering for the neighborhood.
Mhm.
I mean, is buffering for the neighborhood, is protection from encroaching on the riverfront there. It's, protection for the watershed. People should be able to walk it, I suppose, but that's something that somebody would have to see. There are a lot of areas in town that I would like to walk that are a lot larger and bigger. Even the well site, wife and I went down in the spring, and when it was first constructed, there were a lot of trails and everything was nice and cut and neat. And the last time we went down there, it wasn't like that. It was all tall grass. Everything was kind of grown up. And so we kind of started to go in, and then we turned around and we came back because we didn't want to get ticks on us. So, if you don't have a well-maintained trail or whatever out there, then nobody's really going to go out there. But anyway, I think we've discussed it.
right. So was there a vote on whether or not to allow the foundation.
You want me to make,
Was a vote
Well,
taken?
yeah, why don't we vote? Yeah, we probably should vote on that.
I'll make a motion to endorse the foundation on lot 6. Is that
So
correct?
Lot 6.
It is lot
Yeah.
6, house number 1, yes.
And I'll
Okay.
second that.
Okay, so we have a, motion to approve the foundation on that particular lot. Any further discussion? Seeing none, so let's vote, and that's lot 1, you say, or
Lot 6, house number 1.
lot 6, house number 1? So this is to allow the foundation on lot 6, house number 1. We'll start with you first, John. To vote. Yeah, okay, you voted yes, okay, thank you.
Cornelia Shea votes aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
Ellen Sodillo,
Okay, so that was unanimous. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Jim?
I think that was it. So we got the conservation paperwork. We just need the paperwork for the affordable house.
I'll forward that to you tomorrow.
Okay, and then, I think that takes care of it. Gonna
Okay.
get the vote for the, allow the foundation to be put in.
All right.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we'll go to that. So we got, so next thing is planning board member notes. I just wanted to update the planning board about what happened at town meeting. I just want to say the town meeting went for 2 nights. Kevin Robinson was there the first night, Ellen was there for the first night, and Mr. Shea was there for 2 nights. And I just want to go through, we did have the solar bylaw revisions, which actually have come, supposed to be, were not approved by the town meeting. So we're gonna, I guess that's gonna be re-looked at by the planning board at some time. We also did the solar canopies, and that didn't go through town meeting either. So what that means is the solar canopies, if they were approved at one particular town meeting, and but it was the power source that we were trying to deal with at this last meeting, and not all the buildings that these canopies are at can you provide power to those buildings, so it would have had gone to, the town meeting would have had agreed to go out on the grid, and they didn't do that. So probably what that means is that even though we did approve solar canopies, they won't, at this particular time, won't be built because we have nowhere to sell the power because it wasn't approved. So then we went to flood maps, and that was approved. And then we went to the townhouse bylaw, and that didn't get approved, and it was supposed to go to the planning board for further review. So that's how those went for the people that missed the second night or didn't make the meeting. And I know it was a difficult meeting because of the COVID situation. Unfortunately, it was a difficult meeting for a lot of reasons. One was that it was hard to make quorum at those meetings, and it could have been because of COVID, and I can understand that. And then as the meetings went on, people were leaving, and then the recounts had to be taken to see if we had enough people there to continue the meeting. So that made it even more interesting. So, but we did get through. We did, we did get through those meetings, but not all of what we had brought to the town meetings got approved. But that happens. So anybody Any other planning board members have anything else to say? Seeing none. Planning director notes.
So, like the plan not to have a meeting on June 8th. I'm going to be out the last week of May and the first week of June.
Okay.
So I won't be around to kind of put the agenda together for will be a June 8th meeting.
And that's important. All right. So, okay, so how do you want to handle that? Do you want to put that, so we will have another meeting on the 22nd,
I believe that
on June? So you're going to be out the Tuesday of June 1st, and you're going to be out the Tuesday of June 8th, which was our regular meeting. So we have the 22nd.
So I believe the 22nd is the next one. Yeah, Tuesday, June 22nd.
All right, so how heavy do you think the agenda is going to be by that time?
So we have a number of hearings on the 25th.
Of this month, May 25th
Right,
will
May
be our next
25th.
one, yeah.
And then anything not resolved on the 25th would then be continued for the June
22nd?
2nd meeting.
All right. All right.
And then I believe we have a site walk on
Thursday,
at
yeah.
noontime. for
Noontime, yeah.
the 157 North Main,
Yes.
the Oh Deer property.
Yeah, oh dear, Tick, yeah,
Yep.
Tick Spring.
And then just following up, so we get a legal opinion letter. This is for Gale Head, which is property owned by Mr. Shirtleff, for Cobblestone Lane / Meadow Street. They're trying to get a solar project approved. So the question arose whether they had adequate frontage for that project. So Gale had submitted a letter plus a definitive subdivision plan as well as an A&R plan. That's been forwarded to our legal counsel for review to help us confirm whether or not that's adequate frontage, and also review the legal opinion.
Okay.
Just trying to think if there's anything else. And then next week we're going to have a kind of a presentation by SERPED, who's our regional planning agency, and they put together a complete streets priority listing through various meetings with the public. They've been holding virtual meetings, and so next week will be another virtual meeting scheduled for Wednesday. Tomorrow, meeting with some of the department heads, the police chief, Jesse Boyle, the assistant deputy chief, John Woods, and also Rick LaFawn, town administrator, to review the priority listing and provide comments to that in time for that meeting next week. I think that's about it.
Okay. All right, and then you have a discussion. Was that part of the, under planning director notes, you had discussion?
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure what that was for.
All right,
Great comment.
so let's go to the minutes of 4/27. Did you have something on that, Connie?
I have a concern on the minutes of 427. Is it possible that we not include Mr. Jermaine's words? Because first of all, they were derogatory, and I wish we would have addressed it, and I actually wish, Mr. Chair, that you wouldn't even allowed him to speak, because one, he wasn't counsel for Mr. Silva, two, he wasn't our counsel, and I don't think his words should be included in the notes, especially where they were derogatory.
I think they have to be allowed in the notes, but your words are taken. It's been a while back.
In the future, if we're ever in a situation like that, I don't think anybody should speak other than council and the people that are being spoken to, right? Because, I mean, he used it to attack our planner, and that really upset me.
Yeah, no, that wasn't right, and I should have said something, and I feel bad that I didn't. It, it really took me by surprise, and I just didn't react fast enough. But it
Is that in our, it was out of line, a question, I didn't see it in the, I didn't see it in the meeting minutes.
I'm saying if it's in the notes.
Oh, yeah.
Did you?
No, no, it's, actually, it says, Alan Jermaine, 24 Pine Street, quote, has been working with Mr. Silver since October. As soon as the tilt is adjusted, the panels will stick out into the road. Will impact Mr. Silver's ability to work on his bogs and heavy machinery. That's the full and.
Good.
Okay, so it wasn't in there?
No.
Okay. But your point's well taken. If it was in the notes or not, I didn't think that, no, he should not have spoken to Jim Walsh that way, especially being the chair of a committee. And, we've been, from the selectmen down, all the boards have been trying to, have peaceful meetings and not to get angry and mad and do that kind of stuff. And I don't condone that at all. That was wrong. But be that as it may, we'll go on to the approval of it. But thank you for bringing that up, because I did forget about that.
Minutes, April, I have March 23rd here also.
So we got,
But
so we got March 23rd and April 27th in our packets.
March 23rd is on the agenda, but I don't know if that's a necessity.
Oh, okay, yeah. Let's just do the since it's on the agenda, we'll just do the 4/27 then? April 27?
Cornelia Shea will,
Oh, yeah, so this is March, so this was a while back. It's not on our agenda to do the March.
Yeah, I think it was.
We
it was
tabled
on
them.
last
Yeah, I think,
agenda.
yeah, it was, might have been tabled. I know the last meeting. What's this?
I believe the last meeting we tabled it.
Okay, it could be, yeah, it was because the meeting was so long.
Right.
All right, so is it appropriate to do this, or do we have to put it on the agenda for our next meeting?
I think if we tabled it, it would be expected that we handle it at a later date. I would think that,
I mean, you can vote to add it to the agenda, I guess.
Yeah, we can vote tonight to add it to the next agenda.
oh, okay, I thought maybe we could vote tonight because we
Oh.
tabled it to the next meeting, so I,
That is a good point, he's right. Since it is on record for us tabling it to the next meeting, but it wasn't put on the agenda, we can still,
I'm not sure. Maybe it's best we wait because I would think that it's within our power to approve it.
Okay, so let's do it then. And
Cornelia Shea makes a motion to approve the minutes of March 23rd, 2021 as printed.
do I hear a second?
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Seeing none. Mr. Gasky,
Abstain?
he's going to abstain, okay. Mr. Shea?
Cornelia Shea says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
Ellen Sodillo,
All right. So we'll move on to April 27th.
Cornelia Shea makes a motion to approve the minutes of April 27th, 2021.
I'll second that.
So a motion by Mr. Shea, second by Mr. Robinson. Further discussion? Seeing none. Mr. Gatsky?
Abstain?
He's abstaining.
Cornelia Shea says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
Ellen
All right. So our next meeting date will be
27th, 5th?
the 25.
Sounds like a 60s song.
Yeah. So that'll be, yeah, okay, so it'll be May 25th. All right. Motion to adjourn?
Cornelia Shea motions to adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, Ellen Sedillo, second. John Gatsky.
Aye.
Cornelia Shea says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Devin Robinson, aye.
Ellen Sedillo, aye.
All right, thank you, planning board members, and everybody out in the audience. Have a good night. Thank you.